All right. Looks like it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you. First thing I'd like to do is to recognize that we are on the territories of the Sooke, and we do business and enjoy many activities here. I'm sure we hear lots about some possible future activities very soon. Thank you. Moving on from there, approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Haldane. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. And we'll move directly into the public question and comment period. So at this point, it is the opportunity of anyone in the public to speak to anything on the agenda. All you need to do is to come forward. On your right-hand side, hit the button until the red light goes on the speaker. Give your name and the local government that you reside in, and please feel free to share your ideas and your thoughts with us. Thank you. So there we go. We've got a pro here to show how it's done. Okay, don't prove me wrong here.
Okay, there's a couple of things on the agenda I'd like to talk to you. One is there's a lot of things. Okay. Park requirements. I was looking at what you've got for that was the request for the property that's being developed on Lot A, and you made a lot of concessions in there, or staff has made a lot of concessions, asked for concessions, and then I was looking at the proposal for Butler's property, and the concessions are made because of the costs. And because of the cost of development now, it's really ridiculous. And there's a lot of additions put in through the new OCP. And so what I'm looking at is why we're not giving concessions to all the developers, because it's a little onerous. And with the parkland, with a request for Butler's property, you're asking for things like children's playgrounds and more trails and parks. And with our budget, I just think that we're just really setting ourselves up, because our parks department already is really high. Whenever you put in parks, they have to be maintained. And and putting in playgrounds and things, you know how much the water park has cost us over the last year and over the last years. And I think we have to be cognizant of those facts and start pulling up our socks a little tighter, because we can't afford this, and we can't afford higher taxes.
Pardon me, sorry, 1 second. Ms. Lures, can you just introduce yourself? You just forgot.
Pardon me?
We just need your name for the record. Sorry, you missed it at the beginning. Sorry.
My bad.
Ellen Lures.
From Sooke.
And what else? There's a lot of things. Yeah, like parking stalls. There's a whole lot of different things that you're asking a lot of the Butler property. And also on the budget, I was looking at your consolidated budget, and you don't have parks on that budget. There isn't a line item on there. Just information. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Wallace from downtown Sooke. I have a question, really. It's regard to the Ernan development proposal. Given the current zoning regulations for Ernan, what are the number of dwellings that can be constructed given the current OCP and provincial directives? The second question is, what are the number of dwellings in Sooke that can be constructed given the BC directive and the new OCP versus the old OCP? And I assume this includes secondary suites and the use of our existing wastewater and stormwater system capacity.
Mr. Wallace, could you hold on for just a moment? Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Chair, I just wanted to note that if the speaker wants to speak to the Erenan Properties item that went to land use development and was had one notice published in the newspaper, that item was postponed to a future meeting of council, so is not on the agenda.
That was actually going to be my question, because as far as I know, we're not discussing Erenan Estates in any way, shape, or form tonight.
Oh, sorry. I'll be back.
No, but you know what? I can understand you'd be confused, because the previous speaker was speaking about Erenan Estates, so.
Right.
But it's not on the agenda. So
Okay.
we'll be coming back to that item.
Is there any way you can address my one question about the number of units? Is that
I think that what we
inappropriate?
can do is we can take note, make sure that
Inappropriate.
when it comes up again, we'll make sure we have those answers for you.
Comes up again tonight?
When the item comes
Oh,
to a
yeah.
meeting, we'll make sure we have that answer for you.
Great, thank you very much.
So you won't waste your time entirely. There we go. Okay, on any item on the agenda, not about Erin Estates.
Hi, I'm Susan Belford, and I'm here to talk about item 8.6. I know you guys are going to pass it because it fits all the boxes, but I just want to speak momentarily about that one line in the professional report about how the property had been, they didn't say clear cut, but all vegetation was removed before the professional could look at the property. This is a practice that has happened before in Sooke. And I hope that council is going to start to figure out a way to help landowners recognize the folly of taking that kind of step. Because I bet if the land had been left, there would have been some species found. There would have been some other things that would improve the overall quality of our life here in Sooke instead of just clear cutting. The same thing was done on Harborside not too long ago, and that still isn't developed, but it's filled with invasive weeds. So this clear cut on Sooke Road, it was left uncovered throughout the rains, the heavy, heavy rains we've had. And I'll bet that there's been a lot of subsidence on the slopes, and I'll bet that there's also been a lot of pollution into the harbor as a result of that, a lot of silting and so on. So please do something to stop this kind of cowboy act and help Sooke people to recognize that the land needs to be treated with respect.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bryce McLean, and I'm a resident of Sooke and owner of the local bike shop, The Bike Shack. I'm here tonight to express my support for the Sooke Bike Club's proposal to work towards a land use agreement in the Sooke Hills for a prospective multi-use trail network. With my experience centered in the cycling community in the area, I have witnessed firsthand the desire for a recreational area that caters to multiple user groups and users of all different skill levels. There's a massive opportunity here for the health and wellness of both individuals and small businesses within our community. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stephen Eckert with Sooke Regional Tourism Association. I would also like to be here to give the Sooke Bike Club Crown Land application support from CERTA. The outdoor recreation is top driver of tourism in BC, and modern travelers want quality trail experiences. The opportunity to build mountain biking experience is exactly what CERTA represents, bringing in people for multiple nights, extra stays. When you have the limited trails that we have and being able to expand to new trails, that model has been proven within Squamish, Kamloops, Cumberland to grow as a tourism hub transformation. And longer trails mean longer stays. And the other thing is that the Sooke Bike Club has already demonstrated responsible stewardship through the CRD work. And we see it as a low risk, high reward for Sooke's brand and economic fund future.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of council. My name's Simon, and I'm Simon Parr. I'm a resident of Sooke and a business owner here. I'm also here to speak to the Sooke Bike Club proposal for the land acquisition. Before moving to Sooke, I lived in Squamish. It's one of the best examples of what mountain bike tourism can do for a community. Last year, mountain bike visitors brought in an estimated $26 million of spending into Squamish's local economy. That's money spent in restaurants, hotels, and local businesses. Close to home, United Riders of Cumberland negotiated a land agreement that played a pivotal role in transitioning Cumberland from its history as a coal mining town to its status as an internationally recognized tourism destination. There's a simple truth to tourism destination development. If you build a destination people want to visit, you build a town where people want to stay, and a community where businesses want to invest. So I'm fully in support of this proposal. And it's an investment in Sooke's tourism economy. The growing tourism economy is a rising tide that lifts all boats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Nolan. I'm a resident of Sooke, and I feel like I'm in a bit of an echo chamber with the proposal of a land use application by the Sooke Bike Club, but I'll add a little bit of a spin on it. I'm a professional coach and I work with multiple high school academies. And we've been involved actually in the launch of a new mountain bike program at Edward Milne, which is incredible. There's 19 students involved. And as we know, Journey has always had a mountain bike exploratory program. So this is great to see for local kids being outside, exercising, and learning not only sport for life, but also a bunch of other life skills. That being said, the trails we do have access to, which we super appreciate, are more or less appropriate for the top 20% of skills in mountain biking. So like a black diamond, that's what we're riding at Quimper, and it's brilliant. We're going to do what we can with the terrain there. But if there is an opportunity to access more beginner or intermediate terrain that could be more approachable, be safer, and be something that kids who are new to the sport and maybe even their families could enjoy, that would be a huge boon to Sooke. And again, would have all those downstream effects of bringing people from all over. But I did just want to highlight the kids here who could really benefit from increased opportunities to access more mellow terrain. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Veronica Pemberton. I live in Sooke. I'm here to speak about item 8.7, the 5-year financial plan budget. You all know my position on tax increases, and I'm greatly, greatly concerned because when I look at the chart that is proposed, 12% this year, 13.4%, the next year, 15.55, hopefully, because no one can predict the future, a mere 8.10% in 2029 and 4.17 in 2030, which is wishful thinking by that time. But if we accept those figures and add them together, we have a compounded rate over these 5 years of 69.68%. So there'll be a compounded increase of 70% over those 4 years. Or excuse me, 5, assuming the small increases on the latter years, which I am highly suspect of. It's easy for politicians to forecast nothing like easy times in the future. We've already had a 37% increase over the last 4 years, or 3, depending on how you calculate it. So that would mean that over the past, since I've moved here, which hasn't been that long ago, it's increased. And I know staff creates this thing about, oh, it's only this much a month and this much, but it's all compounding and adding up. And I think it's really tone deaf to the situation right now. We lost in BC 300% increases in business failures last year. We've had 40% of the top 1% leave Canada because of the taxes. People are leaving. We had a net outflow from BC, and a huge number of mortgages are coming due. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but this tax increase is not wise. And I just want to say one more thing is that I see nothing in the proposals about efficiencies where we can cut. There's nothing there.
2 minutes up, if you could. make
Can I wrap it up just very quickly? I
Absolutely.
think I could. Thank you. I
Wanna
do
go?
appreciate it. I'm concerned that the OCP was passed and we know there's expenses in there and there's no set out of what amount of this is on the OCP. There's no set out of what amount is it on climate action. And there's no set out about all the initiatives that were on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the OCP, the costs of that. So the items to cut are things people actually support. We don't want to cut police. We don't want to cut any of that. And I would wrap up by saying the city of Vancouver has a 0% tax increase this year, and they're giving, I believe it's $50 million for more policing. So we can do this, but we need to get our backbone up here about no tax increase. Thank you for listening. And thanks for the extension.
Someone else? There we go. 2 people. Or 1 very tall person.
Nick Dickinson Wild and William. I was going to speak a bit longer length on 7.1, but I'll just suffice it to say I'm strongly in favor of it, given all the other voices already raised tonight. In terms of 8.5, I'm strongly in favor. We need more medical facilities. I'm concerned significantly about the degree of changes from the original plan and the number of requests from the developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Second time speakers? Okay, any first time speakers at this point in time? Anyone who's not spoken yet who would like to speak? Okay, I'll be calling for second time speakers now.
Eleanor's, I also want to speak in favor of the bike trails. We were looking at doing a bike trail before we incorporated, actually on the on Crown lands beside Butler property. So I think and it was all about tourism as well. But I'd like to see us write a letter of support, but I don't like to see us spending any money on it. The other point I wanted to make was the Sooke Economic Development Corporation. I don't agree that we should be spending any money on that corporation.
We're not actually, that's not on the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh, in the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we already are paying for an economic development officer. And I don't think we should be doing, and we also have a Chamber of Commerce, and we have a Sooke Region Tourism Association. Thank you.
Okay. Any more speakers? All right.
Thank you very much. Veronica Pemberton, Billings, Sooke. I'm going to speak to 14.1, which is my letter, which has been pulled about a legal inquiry. That's the letter that's been pulled is in response to a longer letter, which is not attached. So and unfortunately, I did not bring it tonight, but it's a longer letter about the importance of a legal opinion from people who are experts in Indigenous rights and land titles about what it means to have the inaccurate definition of Sooke lands be placed into the OCP. So just to recap, we've said Sooke lands are unceded. That is not true. They are ceded and we're governed by treaty. And this is more and more important as things are happening. I mean, I'm following this situation all over BC. Appraisers are changing their appraisals already of houses that fall within districts where there's disputes. So this is a very important thing that we get clear on about if there's any legal impact and not just assume that there's not. I know from other areas of law, I don't know about Indigenous issues. But from other areas of law, it is possible to void your rights. So if I allow someone to cross over and create a general right of way for my property, and then all of a sudden decide not to, I can lose the right to reclaim that property. I've lost it because I've created a right of way. You can do that in divorces. You can do that in inheritance. You can void your rights to things. So I really think it's incumbent upon Sooke, given that this issue is really affecting appraisals in certain areas of Sooke where the land is unceded and contested, that we're clear that we are not voiding any rights and we're just not assuming it to be so. So I just wanted to add that to the letter, and I wanted to thank you for considering that.
Thank
So.
you. Okay, I think we're actually at our 20 minutes, more or less. So unless we have any more public comments, I'll allow one more from a new speaker if there is one. Anybody? Come on down.
Hi, my name's Chuck Willman. I'm a longtime Sooke resident, mountain biker, motorcyclist, four-wheel drive. I'm here not to propose to go against the Sooke Bike Club proposal, but I just want to make everybody aware that motorcycles have built a network of trails out there dating back to the early 80s, if not later. There's already an extensive network of trails out there that are accessible. It's Crown land. It's free to everybody to use. I've ran into hunters out there. I don't understand why they can't just go out there and ride the bike as it is. That's one of the last pieces of Crown land near Sooke, and it's pretty much landlocked by private property on the Phillips Road side and Mosaic on the other side. In the past, people have tried to gain access through Mosaic with no luck. That was quite some time ago. All I ask is that our presence is known and that we be included in a multi-use type network like they have in Squamish. Trials motorcycles have a very low impact. They have soft tires. They're not like a knobby dirt digging motocross bike that's loud. They're pretty quiet. That's one of the last places that we ride in Sooke. There's Tansky, which is out past Jordan River, and there's Victoria Motorcycle Club, which is in Minchosen. They have a long wait list to get into the Victoria Motorcycle Club. They have a cap at 500 members, so it would just be a shame to see us get pushed out of that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm glad I waited. Anybody else? I'm gonna go just in case. Once, twice? Okay. So that would be public comments concluded, and at this point, we'll move on in the agenda. If I can find it. There we go. Okay, so we're looking at the adoption of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Any changes? Okay, Councillor Haldane,
Are we adopting the minutes or the consent agenda?
the minutes.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes passed. Thank you very much. And now we're moving on to the report of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Nothing further to add at this time.
Okay, so that'll be in the course. Okay, very good. And now we move on to delegations. Item 7.1, growing Sooke's recreational offerings, the socioeconomic case for a 350 hectare trail network. If you could, oh, it is on, good.
It is on, yeah. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. My name is Peter Opersall, and I am here with Scott Phillips, the Sooke Bike Club, to speak to you about an opportunity to expand our trail network in the area, which we have a positive impact on our community. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the local businesses, organizations, community members, including families who are here tonight in support of the club's initiative. I'd like to invite them by raising their hands. You've heard a few from supporting this application already speak, but we did not want to inundate you with everybody that's in the room. We just wanted to show you that there is overwhelming support for this initiative, and just acknowledge that. Perfect. So the opportunity, we've basically identified 350 hectares of crown land west of Sooke River, bordering the district of Sooke. It is between Boneyards and Phillips, and it's just above the Otter Point Road. We're looking to expand beyond the C2C park as we are limited in the area with only advanced trails to ride and no opportunities to grow the network to cater to new riders. Adding a new network would drive 2-day visitation as trails users, mountain bikers, have another network in the area to come and explore. We would like to build this area with proven low sustainable strategies, avoiding sensitive habitats with respect to First Nations cultural heritage. Mountain biking is a proven economic driver, as seen by recent studies conducted by BC communities. You can see on the slide here, we've quoted a number of communities, and there are numerous other studies out there that support what mountain bikers bring to the local economy. 4.8 billion is the annual BC real GDP contribution from outdoor recreation. The highlight is that 60% of visitors' expenditure goes toward non-cycling businesses like accommodations, food, and shopping. The proposed proven partnership model, and when I say proven, I refer to Nanaimo as an example, as we know they have been successful under the same application and have partnered with the local bike club to maintain the trails. We see the district as the primary applicant sponsor for the community and institutional land use application, and will hold the legal crown land tenure. The Sooke Bike Club will provide all technical labor and documentation during the process and the day-to-day operation and maintenance if we are successful in the submission. This is a low-risk, high-reward proposition for the district. The club covers the costs for the application. This includes the management plan and environmental assessment and the fee to submit. We will do the heavy lifting. The district staff would provide professional guidance and oversight and help with the First Nation consultations and overall shareholder consultations, because I want to make sure that and stipulate that this is just the beginning. We have to complete the application and we still have to consult local trail users, and that is part of the plan. The path forward is, and I would say simple, maybe straightforward. We'd like it to be simple, but it is straightforward. Council resolves today to sponsor the application and direct staff to support us in the process. The club moves forward with all necessary documentation, planning, and consultation with staff oversight. The submission goes to the province. We expect about 6 to 12 month review process. And if the application is successful, the tenure returns to council for a final decision. So tonight we would ask that the council authorize the district to act as the primary applicant for a community and institutional land use application for 350 hectares. Directs the staff to provide oversight and support for First Nations consultations and stakeholder consultations throughout the application process, and support the bike club in providing all necessary technical documentation, stakeholder reviews, environmental assessments, and management plans for staff to review. And I just wanted to stress that endorsing this does not commit the district to any final agreement or immediate financial obligations. As mentioned, the application would go in front of the province and then to come back for approval by both the council and the club. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments?
Councilor Holling.
Yes, so the fellow that came up here earlier about the off-road mountain biking stuff, is there an opportunity to work collectively
100%. We have no plans to go in there and destroy trails. We want to work with what's there and what's available, and we want to consult, like I said, the local stakeholders. The reason why we haven't started doing a wide consultation is because if we don't have council's support to move forward, this is a moot point. We won't be able to do any sort of application. And hence, that's why we're here before you today.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Councilor Pearson?
Thank you for the presentation and thank you for the enthusiasm. You know, it's been sort of on the back burner since, you know, I got involved with council since 2011 and these ideas keep coming forward. So it sounds like, you know, you've got some good organization. I'm going to ask you a couple of tactical questions as opposed to philosophical. So the access, the primary access would be off Otter Point Road. Is that like the old Boneyard Road kind of?
Yeah, it would be through Boneyard Main, and we have had initial discussions with Mosaic because that would be the direct access, the best access. There is an alternative as well because there is some land that the town or the district has access to right away, but it would be off of Phillips Road, and it seems a bit more complicated to go down that route at this stage. I think the general discussions with Mosaic we've had were positive. They're, you know, open to giving us access to that area. What that would entail and how that would all work would obviously, if we're going through the application process, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, so and again, I'm kind of going down that road. So yeah, Phillips Road doesn't seem to me like a practical place to be for parking and lots of things, but you know what, Otter Point Road somewhere where the old Boneyard used to come out or Butler Main there. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now your ask is that council consider supporting this application. That's basically in a nutshell, right? We're
100%.
not, you know, long ways to go down the road.
We do, yeah.
Okay. Okay, no, thank you.
Further questions? Councilor Bateman?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. You may be aware that back in 2013, the Mountain Bike Association of BC came to Sooke and held a conference of prestige.
I was here.
Okay, so here we are 13 years later. Great, it's fabulous. I'm really curious about your relationship with the CRD and how it's worked out at Harborview these last 5 years. Give me a summary.
Over to Scott, our president.
Yeah, I think it's been, I'd say it was kind of like a rocky start. It took us a long time to get an agreement with them. And I would say in the last 5 years, it's blossomed. I don't know if I want to use that word, but we're doing very well with them. We're just working within constraints because when Land Conservancy gave that land to CRD, there was a whole list of constraints that were put on the land that they weren't allowed to add any more trails. They weren't allowed, there's a whole bunch of different things. So anyways, it really limits what we can do to the trails that are currently there to make them more accessible for people. And it really limits our ability to add other trails that can be accessible for other people.
Right.
I've got 2 younger girls myself, and I would love to have a nice blue trail that they can cruise down. And I think CRD, like our contacts within CRD want that too, but we're all kind of working under this this mandate that, you know, it's environment first, which is totally fine. But it limits some of the things that we would like to do.
Yeah. Okay. Now this land is in the district, or is it partially in the JDF?
It's mostly in JDF.
Mostly in the
Mostly in
JDF.
JDF, yes.
Okay. All right. That's a consideration. Yeah. So you would be creating 2 trail networks. That's right. One would be intermediate and one would be beginner, more or less.
More or less. I mean, like I said, this is just the start.
Yeah.
If we got to that point, we would have to have the whole area mapped by a biologist who would then tell us areas to avoid for ecological concerns. And then we would look at the different grades certainly the first trail that we would want to put in would be a blue flow trail, but it would be a network that's got trails top to bottom of different abilities. Certainly more accessible, certainly more inclusive of the worldwide riding community.
And you see the trail network evolving over decades.
Definitely.
build them out.
Like in my mind, we don't really have a process, or CRD doesn't have a process for us to spend grant money within their parks. In my mind, this whole network, if we get there, is built with grant money and professional builders. And yeah, over time, it's just kind of a slow process.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I just quickly add to that, what we haven't really touched on tonight is the plan on the network, the way we see it initially in a phase one approach would be a climbing trail for mountain bikes, but a two-way hiking trail to access the area, and then a blue trail coming down. That's probably the main, like that would be phase one. And then like mentioned, it would be kind of growing from there and growing the network from there. So again, trail use there is important to us, and we're not necessarily segregating anybody at this stage or pushing anybody out at this
Right.
stage, where we want to work with people.
Work collaboratively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to take one more question from Councilor Beddoes, and then we're going to thank these gentlemen for the good presentation and move on. So Councilor Beddoes.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. Again, someone's mentioned it, but I love your enthusiasm. And, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But when you have a large number of people like showed up today, tells me they're very serious in getting this done. That means a lot to me personally. There's a lot of bumps in this coming up, as you're well aware. One, it's the only question I have at this particular time. Have you done any pre-discussion with the First Nations, the South Band?
We have not, but it's the top of our list for sure. Again, we didn't want to be reaching out, not knowing if we could even.
No,
move
understood. It's just that, you know, it is one of those bumps that you have to deal with, and it doesn't always flow in a very timely manner. So as long as you're aware of it and it's on your radar, then I'm happy with it. So thank you for your presentation again.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll make one final comment. I think it's extremely useful that we have a community health center being built as we consider trail networks of this type, speaking for myself. I was absent from council because I went down some lovely trails, caught my tire in a rut, flipped the bike, and smashed my collarbone to 3 pieces. And I wish we'd had a community health center at that point in time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it seems to be coming together. I'm just saying. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, there is a further piece later on, which is, I guess, why I'm wrapping this up now. We're going to be discussing this at the end of the agenda in a piece of correspondence that Councilor Bain has brought forward.
Sorry, and would you like us to be present for more questions at that time?
Not normally. If you want to be here to see the results, that's one thing.
Yes.
But if you want to go home and sleep, that's okay too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. I'd like to make note at this point in time that specifically the piece relating to the budget. If this is for information, and we need to accept this in order to actually look at the further report later on the agenda. So this is not actually the time to necessarily take it apart. We will be taking it apart later on in the agenda. And we need to actually approve this before we can do that. Or at least that particular piece. If there's anything else you want to pull, go for it. If you want, you can confirm with Mr. Lois on that, but that's what I was informed. Yes, Councilor Haldane.
Will there be opportunity to talk on the Wadham's Way application as well?
That you can pull if you wish right now. I don't believe that's come.
Okay.
That you would have
I'd
to
like to
pull.
speak to.
Okay. Councilor,
I will pull the Chief Administrative Officer's report, please.
the whole thing. Okay. Anything further? Okay, so we have the Wadham's report being pulled. We have the Chief Administrative Officer's report being pulled. Nothing further? Okay, so is someone willing to move the remainder of the consent agenda? Moved by Councilor Beddoes. Seconded by Councilor Bateman. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, at this point in time, we have a small departure from how we have previously been doing consent items. We're immediately going to move on to item number 9, items removed from the consent. Yes. And since Councillor Haldane started the process, perhaps we will start with Councillor Haldane's item.
Yes, thank you. We're all in understanding and agreement we need more desperate medical facility and place to have it and whatnot. The only issue I take with what's going on here is that originally we started out with 1 acre of land, a building that was going to be built. It was 1 acre because that's what we had at the time. We were asked by the development group to come up with more land because they couldn't come up with the parking. So the other ½ acre that we agreed to would cover the parking issues. And yet here we are with a bunch of relaxations on parking stall size, parking conditions. We're getting less for a public use area. Where our setbacks are minimized. So when it comes down to it, the whole idea behind giving another $1 million worth of land was that we'd at least be able to keep the amount of parking we need for Sooke people to be able to come there and utilize the property. The amenity area should still maintain its size. I mean, this is land that the taxpayers in the district of Sooke is giving up so that we can have this. They get to charge market rent for 80% or 70% of the units, and they get paid by the government for the 6,500 square feet of the space that's going to be used by the doctors anyway. So that is something that they get to make profit on. So the idea that Sooke people have to keep giving up more and more land, more and more money, and take whatever the developer or developing group says as relaxations to all of our rules so they can fit more apartments in there so they can make more money. It doesn't sit well with me. I won't support it. I support getting more medical center, absolutely, but I don't support changing over and over and over again and doing whatever the development group wants, regardless of what our expectations are. I think we've done enough, we've given them enough, and I can't support this application in its present form. So.
Okay, so I'm hoping for some comments from staff at this point on Councillor Haldane's feedback. Do we have someone from planning or? Yes, there we go.
Mr. Riley, through Councillor St. Pierre, Mr. Riley's here, as well as Robin Petrie, the representative from Catalyst, is online as well.
Perfect. That seems like the time to actually look at this.
So I'll defer to Jaden and Robin for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here to answer questions. If Mr. Haldane, if you have a question, I can answer that.
Actually,
comment.
I would like to paraphrase some of what Councillor Haldane was saying. In terms of the number of variances, I was in the land use meeting where we discussed those variances, and there were a number of, I thought, very reasonable points the staff made in terms of allowing those variances. I didn't feel like we were necessarily giving anything up, that it was necessarily a big problem, or that there would be any loss to the community, but perhaps I was under misapprehension. If it's possible, I would like either Mr. Riley or Ms. Robbins to comment on that. On the variances, what are their impacts to the community? What are their actual impacts? What are we actually losing?
Yes, I can do that. So through the chair, the first variance is the variance to the recession plane. So we've determined that due to topography of the surrounding area, that the recession plane for viewscapes to the harbor wasn't necessarily impacted by this proposal, especially with the topography to the lands to the north. We also have the rear yard setback from 4.5 to 3 meters, which just basically captures a stairwell that goes down to the underground parking, which should be a minimal invasion to the adjacent property to the north.
Let me check on that. So if I understand correctly, the setback is actually the full setback except for the staircase that basically
Correct.
pushes into the setback, is
Yes,
that correct?
it's only the staircase that goes to the underground parking that would basically go into that setback area from 4.5 to 3 meters.
Okay, the rest of the building is
Correct.
with the proper setback.
It's within the 4.5, yeah.
Thank you.
And then the amenity area is a minor adjustment from 8% to 6.8%. I think what's typical in the town center is the zones do not actually have a minimum amenity space requirement. So it is a bit unique for the CD15 zone that this parcel is subject to. We're still achieving the 6.8% with a terrace and a play structure towards the south facade of the building. We also have future parkland that's proposed directly across the road from this development. And of course, John Phillips Memorial Park is located within close proximity. We don't feel like there is a significant impact with reduction from 8% to 6.8. We also have a surface parking treatment.
Hold on, just one tiny question before you move on. In terms of that previous variance on the amenity space, just to be very clear, what was the amenity? There's a reduction in the amenity space. Why was that needed?
The reduction was needed basically to fit the proposal on the site, just given its density and the parking requirements for the proposed parking. Only limited amount of space was remaining and available for this amenity space, which cannot be located within the required setback distances, which we also have trails and green space within the perimeter of the property, which is not included towards the amenity space calculation.
Thank you.
And then the last variance is related to, the parking surface treatment. So we have permeable surfacing for some of the surface parking, so not the underground parking. And that's basically applied to only the excess parking required. Parking requirements here are reduced by 50% in the town center. So anything in excess of that would have to be non-permeable. In this case, it is permeable, and that is to satisfy the conditions for the rain gardens on site. So there's a system in place with rain gardens where this land or this water is intended to percolate into the permeable surfacing of the asphalt and then go into the rain garden.
Thank you.
And we also have parking stall length, which has been reduced to some of the surface parking stalls, I believe 30 spaces. That's reduction from 5.8 to 4.9 meters. And this is basically to accommodate that rain garden feature on the premises. And the 4.9, it actually would still allow for that 5.8 to occur with a shorter curb and vehicle overhang into the rain garden area.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it's been reduced so that we can have water infiltration back into the water table, but the vehicles can still actually essentially be parking somewhat over the rain garden.
That's correct. Yeah, we believe the parking impacts there are negligible due to that reason.
Thank you. Councillor Haldane, any further questions on any of these variances or?
Well, the other thing that came up was the change in the cladding on the outside of the building, the color, the expectation for a wood look on the building rather than a prison look like the second drawing shows. But what's the reason for the major change on the cladding and the outside look?
To staff?
I'm sorry, I'm unaware of the change of the exterior materials.
There's two pictures they showed in the documents that they sent out.
To confirm, I believe those are two different projects. One project was for the gathering place that is still planned for the front quadrant there. And I did see some online commentary that they're referring, that picture was from the different project. This is a different project for the health center. It was never designed to look like that original project. I don't believe that was a different project.
So originally when they were looking for just the 1 acre, they were expecting the building to fit, but they couldn't fit the parking. So did the 1 acre, did the extra half acre complete the amount of parking that was needed with the same size building then?
Through staff?
So I can't speak to the particulars of the past project, but we know this project subdivision is near completion, and we've confirmed that there's more than adequate parking and no variances to the number of stalls that is required here.
Does that answer your question?
Not entirely, no.
Okay, so I'm not clear. Maybe you could. I'd like to welcome Councillor McMath. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Pearson.
Yep. Okay, so going through the variances, it was a little misleading. So the parking variance that's suggested here is only we haven't reduced the number of spaces, but they were given an overall 50% reduction because of town center, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we've reduced by 50%, but then we're making some of them shorter, but they're not really shorter. I guess it's kind of what I've heard now with that, with your last explanation. And I think that was a good explanation, that we're still going to be able to fit those cars in there. Okay, I'm concerned about parking anytime when I hear the word parking, like, you know, to my counselor to my immediate right. We've talked about parking in our downtown center, and I just don't want to take any more risks with parking. It's an issue that comes up over and over and over again. And is that 50% reduction that we've already granted in the DP, is that going to have an effect on the day-to-day operations of the library and potentially the Evergreen Plaza out the front?
Yeah, through the chair, so I can say confidently that they're well over parked. They would almost meet the parking requirements if we did not have the 50% reduction. So I think that has been accounted for in the proposal. 116 total spaces are being proposed. So that's for the residential as well as the office and the health center. Required under the bylaw is only 78. So I think they're making account for the additional parking needs here, and there's only approximately 30 spaces that would require the variance for the parking dimensions, and again that would overhang into the rain garden, so it would be a negligible impact, I think, for parking purposes.
Right. The total number of rental spaces is 82 or something like that, isn't it? I don't care.
So yes, sorry, 80.
80 even?
80 even in my notes, yeah.
Okay.
For studio 1 and 2 and 3 bedroom units.
Okay. And the total parking now is 116?
116.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? And I'd like the questions to be specifically with regards to the variances and with what we're looking at right now. So any further questions? Okay, yeah, yes?
Well, yeah, it's related to the development permit. And if this development permit is to go forward tonight through you, I'd like to just get clarity on timelines for groundbreaking, permit issuance, et cetera.
Through the staff?
Yeah, I could just speak briefly here. So the development permit following this meeting and minutes, we would have that issued immediately. And then after that, it would be a building permit application, and perhaps our CAO, Ms. Gray, can speak to that as well.
That's great.
I was just going to defer to Robin, who I believe knows the schedule probably a little better than me, I believe. But yes, building permits, we're talking applying for maybe April or June, and shovels in the ground before the end of the year, should council support this.
Thank you.
But I'll defer to Robin, who could confirm.
That's correct. It's the building after the development permit, it's the building permit. And then also the financing approvals need to be in place. But yeah, we're targeting starting before the end of the year. And I just wanted to clarify that Catalyst is a nonprofit.
Okay, so not collecting huge profits necessarily. Thank you. Any further questions or comments at this time? Otherwise, I think I'm going to call the question on this particular motion. Actually, I think we do. Well, there is a motion in front of us. And that's that, Councilor authorized the issuance of form and character development, So we have a motion that was in the consent agenda. Greg.
Thank you, Chair. I believe what would be appropriate at this point, if council are minded to move the motion that was in the consent agenda, would be for a member to move and second that council authorised the issuance of the form and character development permit, etc., as was listed on the sheet. And then if you do that, subsequently there is a additional further that motion that was recommended.
I'll make it.
Okay. So Councilor Beddoes is making that motion. Councilor McMath is seconding the motion. Councilor Beddoes. Motivate.
Yeah, this has been a hard slug for a good couple of years. A lot of stuff behind the scenes that have gone on. It's something that is desperately needed, both in some of the subsidized housing as well as the medical center, which is desperately needed in this community. I hope we haven't given away too much. It sounds to me that the staff's reconciliation on the variances were, to me, reasonable. And so I'll be supporting this motion.
Councilor McMath? Anything further to add? Okay. Councilor Bateman.
Well, I need to just say that this is quite a landmark moment if we approve this development permit tonight. This dates, we can go back to Mayor Milne's community health group. He formed back in 2013, I think it was. Mayor Tate took it over. It's been shepherded by many, many people. This will deliver on the ground floor that 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I believe, are the hours of urgent and primary care. We don't need to, so it's a significant moment. The 80 units will also include below market for middle income earners who are also struggling to find affordable rentals. And it will also include the 14 units of dedicated explicitly for medical staff. So the retention and recruitment of medical staff is critical across BC. So that's another factor. I think there's also so many good things here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lois, should I read this into the record or are we good to go? I feel like maybe we should read it just so that anybody's listening might.
That would certainly be safest, you.
Perfect. Let's do that. Okay, so this is the council authorized the issuance of form and character development permit PLN 02549 for the property legally described as Lot A, Section 10, Sooke Land District, Plan VIP 87872, except Plan EPP 129531, 66051 Wadhams Way, in accordance with all the development permit plans attached as Schedule A and B of the draft development permit with variances PLN 02549, see attachment 2, draft development permit with variances. And that's as far as we'll go right then and there. All right. So any further comments? Seeing none, any opposed? One opposed, Councilor Haldane is opposed. And the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and further, the council authorized the issuance of the following variances to zoning bylaw number 600. A variance to section 815.3 conditions of use. D, an exemption from the application of the recession plain guidelines. A variance to section 815.8 minimum setbacks, reduction to the rear yard setback from 4.5 meters to 3 meters to accommodate a below grade stairwell providing access from the parkade. A variance to section 815.9 minimum amenity area, reduction to the required minimum amenity area from 8% of the lot area, 505 meters squared, to 6.8%, 430 meters squared. A variance to section 4.5 parking regulations. E, exemption from the requirement to surface excess parking spaces with impervious materials. All excess parking areas will be paved. A variance to section 4.6 development and maintenance standards for off-street parking. J, a reduction in the parking space length from 5.8 meters to 4.9 meters with 30 spaces. Does anyone move that? Moved by Councilor Beddoes, seconded by Councilor Bateman. Any further comments? Seeing none, any opposed? Councilor Haldane is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay. I believe we had one more item that was pulled for consent, and that was the report of the CAO. Councilor Bateman.
Thank you for the report. Always substantial, and they fly by without much comment in these chambers. You've provided us with some interesting points around the budget, but I was particularly interested in the significant road improvements that are planned over the next few weeks, in fact. On Sooke River Road around Fred Milne Park and the Horseshoe Club. Could someone take me through these 6 projects? Yes.
I can. Ms. Matson's here, our manager
Yes.
of engineering, can walk you through that.
Thank you.
They're not full road improvements. What they're doing is there's areas that require patches. Majority of those patches will be under 10 square. So there's probably more than one patch in each of those areas. So they'll take out the alligatoring and put in a better patch for the ones that continuously blow out.
So the pothole patrol,
Pretty much.
basically. Okay, thank you.
Sooke potholes.
Yeah.
Okay, is that, Councilor Bateman, is that it?
That's good.
Okay, so at this point, we would be receiving the report of the Chief Administrative Officer for information. Anyone want to move that? Councilor Haldane, seconded by Councilor Beddoes. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, so after consent, we have reports. 10.1, municipal consent for CRD bylaw number 4719. And I think we have a report from Mr. Lois on this.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a huge amount to add. This is essentially a request from the Capital Regional District. They are looking at modifying one of their traffic services. In order to do that, they require consent from, I believe it's 2/3 of the participants, and the District of Sooke is a participant in the service. So you can either provide your consent to the CRD adopting this bylaw, or you can withhold it. If you withhold it, then the question will be whether the other 2/3 majority of the other service participants wish to go forward with it. I believe as staff, we don't have anything particular reason to oppose it, but it is a CRD bylaw, so if you wanted information about the details of it before voting, then we would have to invite CRD staff to present on the merits of the actual proposal itself.
Thank you. I have a further question, and just to confirm my understanding, as I understand it, we have a new CRD service dealing with transportation on a regional basis. And at this point, this is housekeeping to basically change some of their other structures to bring those items under the umbrella of the new service. The impacts, as I understand it, financially to the district are nil, but am I under a misapprehension? Could you confirm that, please?
Chair, that is my understanding as well, yes.
Okay, so at this point in time, is anyone willing to make the motion? Okay, moved by Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I'll move that council consent to the CRD adopting bylaw number 4719, Traffic Safety Commission Establishment bylaw number 1, 1990, amendment bylaw number 5, 2025.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any further comments?
Yeah, I would just say it's a very straightforward incorporation of the Traffic Safety Commission into the new service, and the same work that it's done will continue. These things like the Ready Step Roll, Active Routes to Schools program, the Slow Down Move Over campaign, motorcycle safety, child seat use, all these programs. And the commission itself is very keen to integrate and move on in a new setup.
Thank you. Further comments?
No, and it's, again, the details are in the bylaw itself. I would ask that if it does get passed, wouldn't mind knowing the results from the other municipality, the other participant. I mean, are we first up, or we don't have even the vote schedule right yet, do we?
Through the chair to Councillor Pearson, I'm not immediately sure where the other participants are on the vote. I'm afraid this did receive third reading at the CRD in November, I believe, and it was sent to me a few weeks ago by their corporate staff.
Yeah, and that was my understanding, is that it's already gone to the big board and now it's going back out to the participants. So, okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so 10.2, request for sponsorship, EMCS Society Play and Learn Summer Camp 2026. Do we have a report from staff on this? Nothing to add. Okay.
Move the motion.
Okay, Councillor Haldane moves the motion. Anyone seconds?
Yeah.
Seconded by Councillor Bateman. Oh, Councillor Pearson, graciously giving it over. There we go. Okay. Would you care to motivate, Councillor Haldane?
Sorry, no.
What's the point of order? Are we reading the motions though as we go? So if the mover should be
We
reading
probably
the
should.
motion.
Councillor Haldane, would you care to read the motion out?
The council consider the sponsorship request for EMCS Society for the Play and Learn Summer Camp 226 in the amount of $1,000.
And now if you'd like to motivate.
I've read through the whole thing. It seems reasonable enough. It's only $1,000, so I don't have an issue with it, and it's to do with kids. So I'm a supporter of keeping them well and active and occupied. So I'm for it.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson?
No.
Nothing to add? Anything further? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'll just note, while we opted not to support the Sooke Pickleball's sponsorship of their upcoming tournament. This is a very different ask. As Councillor Haldane says, it's children. These are low-income and Indigenous children who are falling behind in basic literacy skills. They're age 6 to 9. And if you don't, bad things can happen if you can't keep up with your literacy. So EMCS Society staff dedicate huge effort to funding these programs and have been doing so since 2010, I think it is. And so I feel $1,000, I think it should come from contingency, not from the sponsorship fund. Because our sponsorship fund is currently at, will that be figured out? Or do we need to amend this motion to add that? Through you.
Is there sufficient in contingency, in sponsorship at this time?
There is at this time, and I would recommend,
We can always
as we're
come
trying
back.
to be clear for future years of where the funding came from, if it goes through sponsorship at this time, would be the preferred option.
If that fund is exhausted, we can go to contingency at that point in time. I think that's it in terms of further question. I will simply make a comment. Thank you, Councillor Haldane. And I appreciate your efforts to focus our policy towards youth. And I think that's something we can maybe try and formalize at some point, but thank you. I'll call the question now. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Item 10.3, ECOM 911 agreement. ECOM 911 agreement. I'm not going to read the whole thing there. So that's the council authorized the mayor and corporate officer to sign the extension agreement with ECOM to provide 911 services for the District of Sooke for 2026 at a cost of $430,540. Yeah. Do we have a staff report or any comments from staff on that?
Thank you, Chair. The report that I provided in the agenda was fairly brief, but essentially the bill was provided to us a couple of months ago now. It was unfortunately sent to an inbox of a former staff member, which was why we were able to locate it and now bring it to you. As it quite significantly exceeds staff signing authority, then we require council authorization in order to sign this agreement. And unfortunately, as ECOM are essentially the only viable PSAPs, public service answering point, which is available to us, options would, if council are not minded to sign this contract, would be to essentially either lose 911 service in the Sooke area, or to, as a matter of some urgency, identify an alternative PSAP that could provide the service instead.
Okay, so further clarification. Are we legally bound to provide 911 services? Just curious.
Chair, I don't believe that's actually a statutory obligation, as there are still communities in British Columbia that are not 911 communities. It's always been a surprise to me driving through when you'll see signs advertising a 911 community, but that's because there are places that aren't. So yeah, it's something which is extremely common, particularly in populated areas, but it's not completely universal.
Okay, I was just curious because I was wondering why we even getting to decide, because I think we don't have a choice. But it seems we do have a choice. Any further comments on the motion? Actually, does anyone want to move the motion? Oh, well, Council. No, I don't think so. Councilor Better moves the motion. Anyone to step up and second? Councilor Bateman seconds. Please motivate this.
Yeah, we hear all the time about higher taxes, and this is one that just really grates us that we had this dumped on us fairly recently. And $430,000 is a very lump of money that we have to come up, that's the citizens of this community have to come up with. So with very begrudgingly make the motion, because it's either that or no 911 service, and I don't think our community would survive without that. So I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Bateman.
Yeah, just to find the silver lining in this, the province did request a full review of 911 ECOM, and that review came out in December of last year, a few months back, and it very clearly states that ECOM needs to strengthen its financial, operational efficiency and governance practices. This is coming from the public safety minister, and she says they need to get a clear picture of the true cost of service, helping to ensure that local government costs remain sustainable going forward. So as much as that doesn't look very sustainable, I think the plan is to sharpen the organization and come back to municipalities with a smaller bill, at the very least. And I know that I think the campaign continues from Sooke and other local governments to hold their feet to the fire. I think one of the interesting things, there is talk of telecommunications levy to help fund 911 services.
I should point out that Sooke brought forward a resolution to UBCM, basically asking the province to see about levying charges on cell phone users instead of general property taxes. This is much easier. This is the system that's used in most other provinces. It's actually fairly absurd that we have to absorb, I think it was nearly a 3 or 4% tax increase simply because of them downloading this onto us, which is, anyway, let's not go any further into that. At this point in time, I'd like to call the motion. Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Like, when this was first presented to us, I think the number was different than what I'm seeing here today. It was, what was the number? It was 280,000, wasn't it?
Through the chair, let me find the exact number here.
I'm going to suggest that that speaks to Councillor Bateman in terms of transparency and a lack thereof, and where these numbers coming from.
Yeah.
Yes, through the chair, last year's number was $290,060. Last year was only for 3 quarters. And this year now is for 4 quarters, the full year.
Thank you.
That's one reason that is higher than last year.
And there has been, as the chair stated, there has been significant opposition from South Vancouver Island mayors. They were, as a matter of fact, protesting on the steps of the legislature, although Sooke was not present at that protest. However, this is an inequitable situation, and the public should be the ones that are complaining, because this is going on to property taxes, as the chair has stated. And everyone who has a cell phone has access to 911, and they don't have to own property, or there could be multiple phones everywhere. So this is this needs to be corrected by, I'm a bit of a grandstand. The province needs to correct this and get it right. This is not sustainable. 430,000, that's 4.3%. Tax increase for the people of Sooke that we didn't have 2 years ago.
And actually, I should also mention, for the benefit of the public, that another resolution that was put forward at the same time was dealing with basically the change that's happened in our society because of cell phone use. Previously, landlines could basically determine who needed 911. No longer the case. Previously, Mr. Curry brought to my attention that we had a utility tax, which brought in revenues based on cable TV and landlines, which of course have been plummeting because it's all going to cell phones and to online services and online media. We need to, we asked the province to basically look at that legislation and bring it up to date, because that would actually mean revenues that could reduce our taxes where revenues have been dropping. But more to follow, we hope. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to call the question this time. Any opposed? Sadly, seeing none, motion carries. Okay. Okay, so bylaws, 11.1, 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw number 938-2026. All right. Please do.
Through the chair, may I present my presentation? Yeah, okay,
Please,
thank you.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Through the chair to council and members of the public. In front of you this morning, in front of you this evening is the 2026 to 2035 year financial plan bylaw number 938-2026. Sorry about that. Yes. The recommendation is that council gave first, second, and third reading to the bylaw. This financial plan reflects council's budget deliberations at the February 17th and March 16th committee of the whole meetings, and it has been prepared in accordance with council's direction to cap the 2026 general municipal tax increase at 12%. Tonight, we'll also present the tax increase over the next 5 years, as well as the cost drivers that triggered the tax increase. It's important to note that tonight's readings do not prevent further changes. Council will still have the opportunity to amend the financial plan before final adoption. We will also talk about household impact from the tax increase, budget process next steps, and take questions at the end. This slide shows how we arrive at the proposed 2026 position. Earlier in the budget process, council reviewed scenarios that ranged from 10.23% to 18.51%, depending on which RCMP and municipal service requests were included. The bylaw before you reflects council's subsequent direction to cap the 2026 increase at 12%. To reach that target, staff reduced RCMP and municipal service requests by over 660,000 in total and built a draft budget that balances council direction, operating pressures, and service continuity. The key point this evening is that the bylaw has been prepared to match council's current direction while still identifying the areas council could reduce further if it wishes to do so. Looking beyond the 12% tax increase in 2026, the 5-year plan projects 13.46% in 2027, 15.55% in 2028, 8.1% in 2029, and 4.17% in 2030. These out-year figures are planning estimates, not fixed commitments. They reflect operating pressures, ongoing asset management contributions, and potential debt servicing related to major transportation projects. This slide breaks down the main drivers of the proposed tax increases. For 2026, the 12% increase is driven by RCMP and ECOM 911 costs at about 4%, fire protection services at about 3%, other municipal services at 2.84%, asset management at 2%, and debt servicing at 0.08%. The proposed increase supports additional RCMP officers, additional firefighter capacity, and increased parks staffing to maintain new parks and trail assets. It's also important to distinguish between operating pressures and conditional borrowing for future transportation projects. This ties to the question raised from the public at the beginning of this meeting. So borrowing shown in the 5-year plan is significant, namely 5.25% in 2028 and 3.46% in 2029. It's included to satisfy grant application and financial planning requirements. It does not commit the district to proceed with the borrowing. Any decision to accept grant funding, authorize borrowing, or proceed with major projects will return to council for further consideration and may also require a referendum. This slide provides the options available if council wishes to reduce the 2026 increase below the current 12% cap. The first option is community service agreements. The proposed potential reduction total $121,595, or about 0.84% of the tax increase rate. For Sooke Community Association, the 2026 funding request is $105,000, which is $70,000 above the 2025 budget of $35,000. So they tripled their funding request. One option before council is to reduce the request by $70,000, which will return the funding to the 2025 level. For Sooke Lions Club, the 2026 funding request is $30,000, which is $6,595 above the 2025 funding level of $23,405. So one option is to reduce the incremental increase and return to the 2025 funding level. For Sooke Family Resource, the 2026 request is $45,000, which is unchanged from the prior year request. So one option I identified in the staff report is a reduction of $45,000 will bring the 2026 funding allocation to zero. So council may consider that option along with other budget reduction options. The second option is to reduce the asset management contribution. The current budget includes a 2% new tax increase for the 2026 asset management contribution. The third option is to direct staff to identify additional service level reductions. So these choices are presented for council's direction rather than staff's decision. If council wishes to get below the current 12% cap, we need to identify the corresponding reduction in expenditures, reserve contribution, or service levels. This slide translates the tax increase into household impact. For the average single-family house in Sooke, based on an assessed value of $820,000, the 12% increase is about $20 per month or $240 per year. For comparison, a 10% increase is about $16.67 per month or $200 per year. Put another way, the difference between 12% and 10% is about $3.33 per month for the average home. This is the affordability question before council. The savings from a lower rate are real, but so are the trade-offs. Reducing the tax increase means reducing community service agreements, reducing asset management contributions, drawing down reserves, or reducing service levels. The other important context is that Sooke continues to remain relatively low in municipal taxation compared to other Vancouver Island municipalities and is the lowest within the Capital Regional District. Pending readings to the financial plan bylaw tonight, a community budget open house will be scheduled for Wednesday, April the 8th. Council will have opportunities to review and amend the financial plan prior to final adoption, which is planned for the Monday, April 13th regular council meeting. Tax rates for 2026 will be set by separate bylaw and presented to council on April 27th, subsequent to the final adoption of the financial plan bylaw and receipt of BC Assessment's revised rule. Both the financial plan bylaw and the tax rate bylaw need to be adopted by May 15th each year. In closing, the bylaw before council reflects the direction provided through budget deliberations and presents a 5-year financial plan for council's consideration. Thank you for listening, and myself and my colleagues will be happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yu. Okay, so at this point in time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to put the motion on the floor and we can still debate it and so on and so forth, question in whichever way we want. And that's fine. So that's the council give first, second, and third reading to 2026-2030 5-year financial plan bylaw number 938, 2026. And we'll wait for the rest for the open house. So with regards to the motion, Councilor Haldane. Oh, sorry, I'm going to move it. So are we willing to move the motion as it stands?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilor Beddoes, seconded by Councilor Bateman. Councilor Haldane.
Yes, at this point, I can't support a 12% tax increase tonight for various reasons. I wasn't on council during last year's budget, but I've reviewed those discussions. And at that time, staff indicated that the higher tax increases in 2025 would help stabilize future budgets and reduce the need for similar increases this year. What we're seeing now is yet another significant tax increase, and that raises real concerns. So staff indicated in the last meeting that taxes have gone up about 44% since 2020. And we're projecting taxes will go up another 53.28% from now until 2030. With compounded, it's well over 100% in 10 years. So I've been listening closely to residents and people who are really feeling pressure right now. We need to look at more moderate options that balance service needs with what residents can realistically afford. I read the council budget update from March 10th, 2025, that staff provided 4 budget scenarios for council with increases ranging from 10 to 15%. This year, we don't have a range of options in front of us at all. And for the decisions of this magnitude, we should have them. And we did ask for it in the last committee of the whole, and we weren't successful in getting those. As well, last year, revenues came in lower than projected. This year, we're being asked to accept even higher revenue projections despite staff advising there's been little to no building permit activity. That disconnect raises alarms. If the numbers keep shifting like this, how can residents have confidence that the budget is grounded in accurate forecasting? We're not in an immediate time crunch, so I don't believe that we should be making decisions tonight without fully understanding the alternatives in front of us. So for these reasons, I will not be supporting this. And if this motion fails, I have my own motion to put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haldane. Anyone else? Councilor Pearson.
I've been, thinking about this for the last, and again, of course, I was away for the preliminary budget meeting, which is not an excuse, it's just a fact. I agree with quite a bit of what Councillor Haldane is saying, is that, here we are, proposing first, second, third reading for a budget without any options. We picked 12%. I don't know why we picked 12%. I understand that it was council's direction to get it down from a number to a number. Well, I think that lends itself to budgeting to that number. I would really, really prefer to see options before we vote. I'd like to see, I would make a motion to amend this I don't see where I can even amend this because it doesn't say the number in there. I can't just blindly, and I mean blindly, and no disrespect to people who are making the presentations, I can't support 12% without options. If 12% is where we land as a council, and after looking at options, well, then there's confidence in that decision-making process. It just feels wrong to me that this budget, and then, at the committee of the whole meeting, we were asked to come up with suggestions. So that's never been my role in council since I've been here, to come up with where we should save money. That's our experts. Our experts are the staff that work for us. And they're the ones that come up with the proposals on way we can save money under our direction. Fundamental to council, we say what, and staff figures out how. That's been my role since 2010. And I think this is a deterrence from that process. And I'm not comfortable with the process. Whether 12% is the right number or not, which I don't believe it is, because people are having it tough. At $2.08 a liter out there and $2.48 for a diesel, and everything's going to go up. I think that every $20 per month counts. Anyway, sorry, Ranty, I'm not going to support 12%.
Okay, I'd like to comment just briefly because I believe staff did bring forward a number of options. You said there were no options, but staff specifically brought forward, I believe, 3 options. One was to reduce the asset management contribution. Another one was to reduce the increases to service agreements. And the third was to direct them in terms of which service levels council would want to reduce. I think that if we look at the budget, it's clear that RCMP and firefighting are our main cost drivers. So at that point, we would have to look by and large at what we would want to cut from those services, or we'd have to start thinking about what to do elsewhere. I think that if we look to do it elsewhere, at that point, we run into issues where there are already contracts in place and we'd be looking at severance costs that would actually exceed any savings. I could confirm that with staff, but I suspect that would be the case. And I think
It's not our job.
no, but it's not our job to actually spend more money while trying to save it. So,
right. Well, then the option should be on the table. Then we make that political decision.
I
If it's
believe,
tough.
as I said, I believe we have 3 options on the table. We can reduce the asset management, we can reduce the service agreement increases, we can look at specific service levels. Ms. Gray.
And I was just going to further point out that at the February COW is when council received options ranging from 10% to 18%. And at that meeting, various direction was provided by council, and which resulted in, after a couple more follow-up meetings to meeting today, where the 12% direction was given. So at the February COW, there was 3 options provided to council with details on what was included in all of those. Council provided direction on changes to make. That brought us to the March COW, and then brought us here today. So there was that, as well as then today there is other options at this stage. Staff have cut numerous things to get to the 12%. So I think we were seeking direction, as in other years, on what remaining service levels would you like staff to look at?
Okay, does that help Councillor Pearson or?
No.
Nope.
No, it doesn't, because again, I like, okay, at 8% or 6%, we're going to do this, 8% we have to do this, and 10% we're going to do this, and 12% we're going to do this. If that's taken place, that conversation, I can't find it in the minutes where it says what was the service levels, not just the service levels, where were those potential savings to get to 8%? Because to our CAO, back to our CAO again, I wasn't here and I understand that. Was there a definitive plan to get to 8%? Was there a definitive plan to get to 6%? 18 to 10. And we landed on 12. Is the 12, is the details, I don't know, it still feels ambiguous to me that there's not a defined plan to get the 12. I see where we're at 12 now, but what other options were there? I mean, we had a discussion at committee.
I think I'll provide a tiny bit of clarity, and then we're going to go to Councillor Beddoes because he's been waiting. Actually, let's go to Councillor Beddoes right away, just to be special.
I know here. Just in all due respect, we did discuss options. The biggest cost on the tax increase is 4.04% for the police, 3.04% for the fire. We discussed it at length, that public safety. We've been trying to get to better policing. Our police cost, our crime rate's gone up 25%. And it was discussed in council that those are the areas that we weren't going to touch because it was important to our community to have those services. So we started off at 18% and we whittled it down to 12. And now they say there's a few more options here to get it down lower. Nobody likes going in with the 12% increase. But you look at the numbers of what we're up against. RCMP, 4.4%. Fire, 3.2%. The tax increase in municipal services is 2.84%. It'd be nice if we locked off a police officer cost us $280,000 about approximately. So we could drop a percentage right there by dropping a policeman. But you look at the places that come to us and say, look, our business is almost burnt to the ground. Where are all the police? And we've got the police staff sergeant saying that they're going to have to cut back on services. So we did look at those things, and we started at 18 and we got it down to 12, which I thought that we made some improvement. So the options before us now is if we start looking at some of these things that the community association that does a lot of great service for the community, the Sooke Lions Club, that money doesn't go to the Sooke Lions Club. They put on Canada Day for you. They put on the parade for you. And that's what the money's for. Doesn't go to the Sooke Lions Club. So if you don't want those things, and I'm saying this to council, then knock them off. But I think the community will be poor. We will lose the essence of our community. So asset management, 2%. There's another one. There's an area that's being considered. And the 2%, we decided a few years back that we were going to do the 2% at asset management because our assets are in the ground and they're rotting and they're corroding. And somewhere down the line, you're going to end up paying at $235 to replace a culvert that we haven't planned for. So that was the idea of the 2%. So I just get a little frustrated when I hear that, council sat here and looked at all these numbers and got them before us and almost indicated that we didn't do our homework. We did do our homework. We looked at all those things, and that's where we came up to 12%. If you can come up with something that I'm not aware of, or, then please do. But I'm sort of a little frustrated when I hear things that saying we haven't done it when we have. So anyways, thanks very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any further comments from anyone who hasn't spoken yet?
Yeah.
Councillor Bateman.
So I'm my first time speaking right now, and I'll say what I've said before. I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer in this community, and I'm not thrilled to pay another $240 this year, while also looking ahead to future increases. At the same time, I want to live in a community where I know that I have the community safety that I need and my neighbors need. Fire, police, asset management to get those potholes filled, and the larger projects that will inevitably, municipalities across BC are famous for not managing their asset management. And in fact, one of the South Island municipalities, I can't remember which, is just introducing its first asset management this year. So we were ahead of the game on that. In terms of having those options, Councillor Pearson and Councillor Haldane, we were given those options initially. We were told through some remarkably good, clear work from the Financial Services Department that there were non-discretionary and discretionary. The non-discretionary, I'm looking at my notes here from the first report, came in at 7.59%. these labor cost increases in a union environment are absolutely primary on that list. Our discretionary would have been included a firefighter, number 14, community service agreements such as the Sooke Community Association, which I am in favor of. I like the 12%. I think as much as I dislike it, I like it because it deals with the good parent issues in this community while also ensuring support through community investment, the vitality aspects of our community. So the Sooke Community Association, Sooke Family Resource Society is also one of those optional ones offered tonight. That money goes to prenatal counseling and to youth navigator services. And they deal with literally hundreds of individuals in those two categories. And they're making a huge difference. I know it gets a little tight. That trip to Village Foods or Western, it's coming in at, it's not in, it's 3 figures often. So this is just some nacho chips. And anyway, it's a awkward time, but I think I would like to thank staff for, because I did ask early on, these 5-year projections are often a little low. And so last year's 5-year projection for this year was coming in at, I think, 9%. There we are. And so there, when I saw 18, and how does that happen? So I think now you have given us that full set of asks. If not the 30 RCMP officers, get them to 19. Fire going to come in, we'd said in 2023 that we would support 24/7 fire and police. And I believe fire will be 1 officer per year. So I don't know if you get your 20 officers by 2029, 2030. Anyway, I think I'll stop at this point, but just say that I think I'll be voting in favor of this budget.
Councilor McMath?
Can we go back a couple slides? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So this one, I have a tough time with this one because I don't think it's a fair comparison because those communities also provide other services that Sooke does not. So I don't think that it's not an apples to apples comparison. So I don't think that's a fair take. If we go on to the next slide going forward. Sorry, other direction. So I do appreciate this slide. It's an excellent infographic. The only challenge is, and I guess one of my questions is, if we do a 12% increase, it's 240 per year, so it's $20 a month. So it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but can you tell me what the total increase per month has been if we go back the last 8 years? Or even per year, if that's easier.
Sure. Through the chair to Councilor McMath. I had just run some stats and provided this to Rose earlier, actually last week. And sorry, I don't have a total on this
It's okay.
year.
Do you want me to give you a second?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
and
Give me
then
a
I'll
second.
go
And
on to.
I do have the amount, like on an annual basis over the last 10 years of what the impact was.
Annual's fine. Yeah, I
to
don't
an-
need by month.
To an average. I just have to add a total to it because I did it just by year.
Sure. And going back to just like the 5-year financial plan, I think one of the challenges that everyone has, and everyone is working very hard to have the amenities and the services to keep the community happy and balancing the cost of living, which is incredibly difficult. Plus you get these unexpected downloads from ecom, which equate to like a 4.5% tax increase, which is so unfair. And how do you plan for that when you get blindsided by that? I do understand that. I think it is extremely difficult though. So using last year as an example, we have this double-digit tax increase with the anticipation that, we're going to do this because we had a couple years with the 0% tax increase or too low and we couldn't sustain all our infrastructure. So we're trying to play catch up. So we're like, hey, we're going to do this gross double-digit tax increase. And then we're gonna hit 9.8 or whatever it was for this year. And then to come into this year and we're back in double digits, it makes it difficult for people in the community as well for their own financial planning and for their budgetary choices. And it creates frustration, which is completely understandable. So how, I understand the unexpected curveballs, but outside of that, how can we do a better job of getting to a more accurate, realistic budget expectation for 5 years? Because I don't think in the last 8 years that I've been here, we've ever done and hit the mark on those numbers. I don't think we've ever done it.
I'd like to make a quick comment at this point in time about those projections. I think a lot of those projections, and especially the huge double digits, are the through connector and the referendum and the cost of basically borrowing for that particular project. And I know that in terms of community engagement at the budget surveys, at the pop-ups and so on and so forth, one of the things the community was really, really clear about was that they wanted something done about the highway and something done about basically traffic. Whether or not the community actually agrees through a referendum process that they want to take on that debt, that's again going to be up to the community to decide. But those projections and those increases are based on the carrying charges for those debts if we actually move forward through connector project. And I don't know if that was really clear. Okay.
How it works. Yeah, it's more just how to have more realistic numbers, because that's not a surprise project. That's a slow, heavily like building piece. That's not, it's not a surprise project.
No.
So how, from an education perspective, can you go to a constituent and say, you want these road improvements? You know, we might have this 5-year, 10-year project. This is what it's going to cost you. You still want it. It's kind of those conversations, I guess. Do you have the?
Sure, I do. The total increase to an average house, so this is based on the representative house value that's provided from the local government stats. It's the total from 2016 to now is $1,134 is the increase per household. So that's on average is a 6.61% increase. If you were to take that over the months, it's $9.46 or $9.46 a month is the cost over those months for the increase.
Okay. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, so
I'll pause for now.
I think actually Councillor Beddoes has just walked out for a bio break. So I think I might just call a 5-minute recess right here and now for, well, what, 5 or 10? What do we want here? Make it 5. Okay, back in 5. Everybody needs to go to the bathroom. Do it now.
$20 and don't say that. It's 10 times that. Hello. Well, yeah, there's still fans in the class.
They have its own bonds, there's some space. You know, I don't like being so. It's like these. It comes out of the, stuff. That's like other parts. That's like I went last, but in fact, I thought you were. On your wall. Doing well. We'll see. This is the nut. No, we have 6 people. We're not having a 4-3. No. It depends. People want to suggest amending the numbers by taking any of the options that have been offered. We can do that. And then we're looking at moving forward with the amended proposal and proposal budget and percentage and so on and so forth. If they want to leave us in a deadlock at a 3-3 or some such, then I'm not sure what happens at that point. Well, we do, but if we can't agree on one, then that's happened before in local government, then that's the way it goes. We might have to wait for Maya to come back. I know she'd prefer not to have to, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's wait just for Council McMath. Sorry, I missed that. Thought she was here. These meetings keep me hydrated. Well, since we're waiting for Council McMath. No, she's coming back. I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, I think we can actually start because I said we would, and it's been at least 5 minutes. I think she'll be joining us very shortly. At this point in time, there we go. At this point in time, there we go. Oh. Just to recap, the numbers that we have in front of us are 12%. Having said that, we have been offered different options. Those options include looking at reducing the asset management 2%, reconsidering the increases to our service agreements, looking at our service levels. Those service levels, and I understand that Councillor Pearson wasn't there, so I will recap a little bit of that just so that we can actually be very clear on what is driving the major increase. The major increase is actually, quite frankly, going to be probably the school liaison officer with the detachment, with the RCMP. And that was identified very strongly as a need of the community because we have a lot of youth that are actually at risk. And this is one of the main intervention points that can actually really make a big difference. And it was the decision after some hard thinking because of the increases at that time by council to include that position. So just in case you're interested, that would be one of the major drivers. To further clarify, it was stated at that point in time that staff reductions, any further staff reductions would not actually result in any decreases in the increase. So we wouldn't be looking at decreasing that percentage if there were any other staff reductions at other places in the organization. As Councillor Bateman was pointing out, there's about, what, 8.9 baked in or 7.9 baked in that is really because of contracts, union negotiations, so on and so forth. Those increases cannot be touched. There's a further amount that was the police liaison, another further amount for the firefighters to get our commitments and to make sure that we keep on not having buildings burned down. The only things that staff have been able to identify so far after having spent a fair amount of time getting from the 18 to the 12 are the items that we've been presented with. Those would be the asset management, the increase in the service agreements, or potentially, and I would not advise it, the police liaison officer that would be attached to schools. Does anybody have any further comments or questions at this time? Councillor Haldane.
Yes, I think all we're trying to get to here is we've been told, you know, providing random opportunities for cuts, but that's not providing structure. We're looking for structured cuts, structured at a percentage, 6, 8, 10, 12, even your 18. The whole idea, we got to 12. Your Councilor Beddoes is right, but we didn't have it structured to get to 12. We just came up and said, well, for conversation, let's put in a motion for 12. And that's how it came up in the meeting. So we didn't get to dialogue that. We never got to bring it up and say, hey, what makes 12 work over 8 or 10? Last year, you guys provided some options. This year, we're not provided options. We're told, who on staff would you like to cut at the last meeting? Well, I'm not going to yell out who I think should be cut off staff in any shape or form. That's not my job. My job is to try and find out efficiencies. Why do we not have a hiring freeze on? Why would that not start? That's how you're going to cut your costs, or at least be able to balance out so you can actually have a proper 5-year plan. Last year, like Megan says here, you had 9.7 slated for this year, but we're coming up with a billion reasons why we have more. In 2022, our building permit revenues were $904,000. This year, they're $572,000. There's the differences. That's from 4 years ago. The revenues have changed by $332,000. So that's where some of the money's gone. So we have to start thinking about how we can have efficiencies within the organization. That's all we're asking for here. Just asking for more information on how we may be able to get there, or maybe not. Maybe it is 12 in the end, but right now I don't like 12. I don't think 12 is affordable for people in Sooke. And I think we can get there if we look at some of the numbers on how to get there. And both fire and police, yes, we need them, absolutely, but they're not in stone either. And there should be dialogue on that, more dialogue than we've had. So when it comes down to it, I'm just looking for more clarity, and there's no big rush. Why do we have to ram this thing through and get it to a public hearing tonight? I mean, it's not due until May sometime. So here it is, end of March. So what's the big hurry?
Okay,
I think.
Councillor Haldane, just through to staff. Why the rush? Let's just try to get that one. Well,
Through the chair to Councillor Haldane. So there's the legislative deadline of the financial plan bylaw and the tax rate bylaw have to be adopted before May 15th. In order to do the financial plan bylaw, you need to also do an open house. So there's also notice periods for that because of course we're trying to actually have a proper open house and give some notice time, not just next day, hey, we have to have an emergency open house because procedurally that's the requirements to adopt the financial plan bylaw. So as you see, dates quickly carry on. And even as we are right now, if we did the open house as scheduled for April 8th tentatively, the financial plan bylaw wouldn't be presented till April 23rd. And with looking for adoption at the next meeting from there. So however, if there are changes to the financial plan bylaw, we would have to redo an open house potentially. So not necessarily an urgency. I would say honestly, we're behind. We're already 3 months into the year this year. And projects are basically major capital projects. Any capital projects are on pause right now, waiting for budget approval. So I believe this is the schedule we're normally trying to follow. If anything, we're a little bit behind this year compared to other years. And so that's all I can offer this time.
Okay, so to sum that up, in order to have time for open houses and for the public to have their say and for any of that say to be actually incorporated into the budget itself, we have to move this forward fairly quickly. It doesn't necessarily mean that this remains as it is. I think Ms. Liu stated as much. Those numbers could still change and we still have the option of changing them. But if we don't move forward from here, we can't get to the open house, which means we can't actually consult with the public and find out where the public would like to see those changes made and incorporate that. I hope that helps. Councillor McMath.
So we basically have like a 2-week buffer right now.
Correct, give or take. Yeah, it would depend on, like I said, notice periods. So the request from staff would be if 3 meetings are not accomplished tonight. I know the mayor provided direction to deputy mayor and myself for council to call a special meeting before April 1st in order to try and stay on the April 8th schedule.
Right. I had a question regarding the fire hires. Does this next increase for this year give you like a full RIT team on shift?
If you're gonna look at our initial engine that we respond to with our career staff, it still doesn't give us enough. We're right now currently staffing usually 2 people on a 24/7 basis, sometimes 3.
Yeah.
And in order to get that work safe requirement, we have to have 4.
Right, okay. And then the only additional RCMP position is the high school liaison?
No, that
That's
was
the only
police.
addition? That's the only one.
Sorry, did you say RCMP?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Sorry.
It's just, that's the singular position.
No, there was more than that, but that is where I would put the increase to. I think the other one was,
So the other positions were
baked in.
forecasted?
Yes.
This one is like,
This one is council's
That was
decision
the
as, an additional position.
and what happens for the RCMP service levels if they aren't provided those forecasted positions?
I believe through the chair to Councillor McMath, I believe Sergeant Wilcox presented at one of the previous meetings and threw out suggestions of reduction in service level, but that was more for the administration staff, so I'm not 100% sure on the RCMP officers.
Okay.
To your point kind of earlier on how can you get more clarity on the out years of the budget, a suggestion I would have is council would request Sergeant Wilcox provide a more fulsome 5-year staffing plan to council because the plan that council supported in 2023 with Sergeant Shaw is definitely different than the plan that Sergeant Wilcox has. So those costs are being realized every year and the requests are coming forward to council. And I think at this time it would warrant a more fulsome presentation because as Councillor Bateman stated in an earlier presentation, he's anticipating wanting to grow to 27 or 30 officers by 2030. So in order for the out year security, as you can see, the RCMP takes up the biggest portion of our budget.
Yeah, it's big time. I see both sides, but for me tonight, what I'd like is that from Sergeant Wilcox before. So then we can have a clear perspective on like wants versus needs. Because there was a time not that long ago, we called it cowboy hour, where there was no police officers working. And that's changed. So now we have 24/7 service. So that was a huge milestone for Sooke. So these pieces, like I would really like a full breakdown of what that looks like for them. I know they have some members off on leave, so I don't know if it's fill for that. And then whether we greenlight those positions or not, I think will have a significant impact in this budget. The rest, the community service agreements, I'm not really interested in touching, and they're so insignificant. And then there was, sorry, so.
Councilor McMath, I'm just gonna, like to move on to, make it quick.
Could you just go back to the slide where you had the
That's not
three
quick.
options? Or you had like the community, the Sooke Lions Club, the Sooke Community Association, these ones. So yeah, so really it would just fall under service level reductions. So like a more thorough breakdown of that, specifically to do with the RCMP.
Okay, Councilor Meadows?
Yeah, through your worship, to staff. We went through in great detail with the staff sergeant the reasons why they needed the police officers that they needed. And I'm hoping I get a number from you, but I think the average in the province is 800 residents for every police officer. And we were at, have you got that number, 12, 14?
I think 1374.
Whoa, very specific.
Anyways, it was a large number. And he made it very, very clear that with the 14 officers, I think it's 14 that we think is he would have a tough time keeping up. Well, he has some with the province too. But anyways, he'd have a tough time maintaining the level of service. And they have a special investigation unit now for more serious crime out here. That would have to go. We'd go back to a regular constable. So we have had a wholesome discussion with the staff sergeant on his needs. And we had a look at it. And I believe staff is did some magic on when to bring these people online when you pay for them. And so we've had this discussion. Now we're going to have it again. And it just frustrates me that, I put my time in here and come to these meetings, and we're going to have the same thing again. And I know what he's going to say because I heard it the first time. And the bottom line to me is there's not a lot of wiggle room when it comes to the RCMP. They are already way back in, for a growing community. He's having a tough time keeping police officers on the road. And a lot of that, and I think I'm talking to the public here too, because we've got a few of them here. But the policing requirements now, once upon a time, a police officer would put 6 hours in the road and 2 hours of paperwork. Now they're doing 6 hours in the road and 6 hours of paperwork because of the different requirements with the federal government. And in order to get it to Crown Council, they want all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. So it is an expensive way for public safety. But we've been through this. But if you guys want to have it again, then call the staff sergeant in and do it again. But I didn't see any wiggle room with the RCMP, so I'm just getting a little frustrated.
Hold on. I have a question for staff. Once we move to open house, which at some point we will move to open house, what's the format of the open house? Would it be the case, for example, that the public would have a chance to look at, for example, the different options in terms of reductions? So for example, do you want to spend money on these service agreements? Do you wish to actually maintain asset management? What does the open house look for? What sort of information is it pulling out? And how is it expected to potentially affect the budget?
To the deputy mayor, the open house would be presenting the 12% option and what's included in that option, not focused on polling and attendees to confirm if they would like reductions or a different option to choose from. It would be highlighting what's included in the budget, taking their feedback that would be presented to council at the next regular council meeting. So if they were recommending reductions or not supportive of something in the budget, all of that information would be presented to council, but the open house is presenting the information that is included in the potential 5-year financial plan at this stage.
Okay.
because in theory, I guess we were asking for what was important, what was included, what would you like included in the budget? What would you like funded through our budget process throughout the year, through the open houses, the markets and the budget surveys, et cetera, and other correspondence received throughout the year.
Okay. Yes. And then Councilor Bateman.
I was also at that meeting. Sometimes I'm not here. I can't afford to always be here. And just to play devil's advocate here, when I asked Chief about RIT team, what that is they can't enter a burning building without a 4-person crew. So Chief could argue, I need those people. I have to have those people. I can't enter your home when it's on fire without these 4 members to justify that. And so arguably fires could be just as high as the RCMPs. It's all well-intentioned and everyone has like the best interests of the community in their hearts. That's no one is questioning that, but it is a bit of a triage here. And so that is where our job is difficult. So it's our job to decide with the help of staff where we cut and where we don't. If he comes back and you know what, actually, we don't want this. We're not going to give you these positions because they have acquired a lot of, and granted we've grown, but we have given them a lot of staffing positions in this time and they have massive implications on the taxing. So and again, what is the harm, especially with the 2-week buffer, to go and have that conversation with the staff sergeant? So I can fully understand the choice that we make and bear the brunt of that responsibility when I make my decision. So when I get pulled aside in a grocery store because someone is furious, I'm not hesitating. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, this is why. And so to have that peace of mind, I don't fully understand why it's like upsetting for some people. And we do have a 2-week buffer and maybe we come to 12, but maybe we don't. So I just wanted to circle back to that.
Okay, so I'm not sure about this 2-week buffer. What is this 2-week buffer? Yes. No, excuse me. I just,
Sorry, just to maybe the 2-week buffer, I think Councillor McMath was referring to is everything isn't due until May 15th. So if we don't do the tax rate bylaw till April 23rd, we still have, in theory, some time to play with. We're not at crunch time.
okay. So
However, one point of clarity, sorry, Councillor McMath, is Sergeant Will Cox is out of the office until the end of the month.
It's a long week.
Sergeant Kara is around, but I know Sergeant Wilcox, as you were aware, was the one who presented about the service levels and highlighted some of the cuts and reductions if he didn't get his staffing supported.
thank you. Councilor Bateman.
Yeah. So just staying with police for a minute, I'll just read some of the staff sergeant's comments from, I think this was the January Committee of the Whole, where he brought forward a large presentation. These are more or less quote unquote, struggling to maintain basic services due to population increase and accelerated service calls. He's up 23% in the last 2 years. And just last week, he noted they're up another 10% plus in service calls so far this year. Cop to pop ratio is currently 1 to 1,250 residents. That's the second highest ratio in the province. He says this ratio is, quote, dangerous for the public and the RCMP officers who serve here. There is a narrow window, he says, to avoid service cuts in 2026 with the proposed budget plan. This was, overtime will continue to be high to maintain minimum levels. Without action, we would be putting additional pressure on future councils and budgetary years to close the gap. So when we first saw this budget, RCMP was looking at a 7.9% increase, and I believe staff has met a number of times with the staff sergeant and got it down to 4.04. Both of those numbers include the econ. I can see Councillor Pearson is right, that school police liaison officer might be a nice to have, despite the fact that both EMCS and Journey Middle School have written very strong letters of support for that position. Again, it's one of those upstream interventions that are investments that give great return on value. So yeah, yeah, that's what I got to say so far on that subject.
I'd like to make a quick comment based on some things that Councillor Haldane was saying, actually. And that's that a lot of people that own homes are either seniors and they don't necessarily have a lot of disposable income. They might be on a fixed income and so on and so forth. Or they might be young families with kids and so on and so forth. I think in both those cases, you have a situation where, and I know that every bit counts, but we're looking at $20 per month to basically try and make sure that their kids are safe in school, or to try and make sure their neighborhood is safe from kids. I don't know, let's not go there. I think that in both those cases, there would be a lot of support in the community to actually have that type of position. If this council deliberates and decides to cut that position, I think it's going to be to the detriment, long-term detriment of the community. This is definitely the stitch in time that saves 9, where you have young people that don't end up in jail, don't end up in gangs, don't end up beaten up or dead. It makes a huge difference. So I would suggest, and it's probably not going to be popular at all, that there's probably more kids that would be saved in this way than from burning buildings. But you know, I don't even want to have to make those choices. Okay, I'm just saying we should probably make sure we have both. And I'm just gonna, I'll leave it at that. Stop it! You're not helping now. All right. Any further comments, questions? Councilor Pearson.
Well, you know, sitting here listening to everybody and thinking about what kind of, and trying to digest, we're zeroing into one aspect of the budget. And that's not in my brain where I was going. I was still considering overall, looking at the overall budget, where can we get some significant cuts to make this affordable in the entire operation? We haven't talked a lot about efficiencies. I trust you guys to talk about it. And I think that's part of that missing conversation. You know, we could have a presentation by the RCMP, and I think that it's just going to be the same thing reiterated. However, it does give some comfort to council members. I have no problem with that. But I also think that the message from us back to staff is say, what else can we do? What are the other options? The 2% asset management, maybe that's a 1-year quick fix. But we have to be prepared that, you know, we could run ourselves into trouble. But again, you know, $2,026 are less valuable than $2,028. So there's an argument on asset management. If you save that money directly to your budget today, that it actually costs you less in the future. I know that there's asset management people that disagree with that whole theory, but there is another theory that says pay for it as you go. Like as long as you don't have one of those overwhelming bills. And I know my financial friends to the left of me are going to say no. But there's other things we can do in that global budget that I still think that we can get that thing under into single digits. I'm not going to suggest the number. Yes, I already made a suggestion last week. I still think that we have to look at efficiencies within the organization. I think we have to look at our own spending, which is council spending. I think there's all kinds of things that we can do, and I can safely say that. I'm not pointing in any direction in the organization, but there is ways for us to save money too. And I think that I have a comfort level that collectively between staff and council, we can come up with a budget that is more palatable. Because when we talk about $20 a month, we're not talking about the CRD increase. We're not talking about the library increase. It's all coming on top of everything. $20 a month, okay, that sounds pretty easy. But you know, some people in this room are on fixed incomes. And $20 a month is a lot. And you know, the Sooke school district is making kids pay for the buses. $300. Like, you know, we see e-com bills. These things are all coming at us. We got to do everything we can to make sure the pencil's as sharp as possible. So if we have to take an extra 2 weeks and wait for Staff Sergeant Wilcox, then I think that's what we should do.
Okay, so I have a further question for staff. If we were to actually move this motion as it stands or altered percentage-wise in any way whatsoever, we would then move to an open house according to Ms. Liu, there's still opportunity to make changes similar to what Councillor Pearson is suggesting. Are there further opportunities for staff to consider what has been suggested here and potentially have some sort of a report, perhaps in camera, with council in terms of efficiencies? Because right now I feel like this is going to go nowhere. And what we need to do is to move forward. I think that the public needs a chance to actually weigh in. I think that having the open house, so long as it doesn't preclude further deliberations of the type that Councillor Pearson and Councillor McMath and Councillor Haldane are suggesting could happen, is this an option? Do we have the option of having further information, moving forward as we are, and getting the open house online?
I'll start through the chair and maybe see if anyone else wants to add in. So yes, budget can always be changed until it's adopted. However, just to keep in mind, if the budget was going to change from the percentage approved, from the numbers approved in the bylaw today, then a new open house would need to happen as well. So that would have to be factored into the timeline of everything, that we would need to kind of restart the cycle and do another open house on the new financial plan numbers, because that's what the open house is about. It's presenting the numbers of the financial plan bylaw. With respect to Councillor Pearson and others, I guess staff would need some direction from council on where else we're supposed to look. I feel like staff have presented multiple options to council over multiple meetings. We've cut multiple different things. Every, I believe, discretionary item has been cut. So that's why over those last couple of reports, we were trying to highlight to council, here's some things that have not been directed by council. They've been asked, that are included in the budget. But, you know, specific to the service agreements, that's not a staff decision. That would be a council decision. Again, asset management would be a council direction, because you gave direction initially on the 2%. And then service level reductions, that's been the numerous meetings we've been having since January, is talking about service levels and taking direction from council on where to reduce. So other than any new asks, the only other asks in there would be parks. There's $40,000 for parks laborers included, and some additional funds for the engineering for stormwater maintenance budget. So there is very limited options left to cut. So I guess the staff would request direction, at least on the service agreements and the asset management decision points, to provide some clarity. But sorry, I'm kind of going on too long here. But long story short, no, there would not be an opportunity to present new information if council gives 3 readings to the numbers in the bylaw tonight.
Okay, to sum up, there is no further information and staff will not be able to provide information on further efficiencies. The decision needs to be made on the information we have at this point in time. Is that, no, actually, I'm summing up what I think I've heard. Don't tell me no. If that's not what I've heard, I mean, is that what I've heard?
We can always provide information. I'm just saying, if you give 3 readings to the bylaw tonight, then that locks in the numbers that we're going to present in the open house.
Okay.
And we'd be spending our time focused on the open house information and reporting back to council on the feedback received at the open house, which then again, as Ms. Liu stated, council could direct staff to change the budget again and redo the open house and go from there.
Okay. Well, that's clear as mud. You had something further?
So if we gave first, second, third reading, it becomes 12%. If we don't.
It becomes 12% for the open house unless it's changed at the open house.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, so I won't be supporting. Can I ask our CAO one question then? So the tax increase, then the way it was presented, that those service level agreements, they're right there actually, I think. Those are included in the projected as if we were going to vote on them, even though we haven't voted.
Those were, yes, through the chair. Those are included in all those new asks are included in the 12% figure and were presented to council. I believe those service agreements presented to council in January, or maybe it was near the end of last year. I can't remember. They presented with their various requests. And so council didn't give us direction to cut anything at that time. So these have been included.
Yep. But again, essentially, we have not voted those asks have not been voted into the budget. It would be supported by the budget because we had approved the budget first, and then that would be part of the presentation.
Exactly. That's why these have been presented the last couple of meetings of like, these
Gotcha.
are options, net new asks. If council would like to reduce 0.5% or so, almost 1%, you could change those requests.
Okay. Thank you. That was clear.
Thank you. Okay. Looks like I should maybe call the question and see how it goes. Hmm? All right, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Councillor Haldane, McMath, and Pearson are opposed. The motion fails. So what do you want to do? I would leave it to the people who opposed. What would you like to change the motion to? You have the next one.
I have a motion.
Please, thank you.
The council defer consideration of the proposed 12% tax increase and direct staff to provide a report for the April 13th, 2026 regular council meeting, updating the 2026 to 30 5-year financial plan bylaw reflecting residential tax increase options to not exceed 6%, 8%, and 10% for 2026 and include associated service levels and financial impacts for each option.
Could you walk that over to Phillips?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, do I have someone to second that?
Is it possible in that date?
No, but we will wait.
We could change the date.
The pros. Wow, so few typos.
What's that?
Is that the entirety? Okay. Has everyone had a chance to see the motion that Councilor Haldane has presented us with? Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, Councilor Pearson seconds. Councilor Haldane, would you like to motivate?
No, I've pretty much motivated all night long here, so I would just like to see options. I mean, that's really what this has been about. And that's what I was trying to do last meeting, but I was caught off guard, and I apologize for not understanding all the direction that we were expected to go, and the 12% I didn't realize was going to be one only, and that was it. Otherwise I would have made those asks back in the other meeting we had there last week. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Pearson?
Well, I think other than the date for April 13th, what I would ask staff if that, it has to be sooner. A special meeting. A friendly I mean, to an and I don't know what to put in there because April 13th makes it too tight according to our CAO. So we'll,
that was just the next regular council meeting, but I'm open to coming in on a Tuesday.
Special on the 6th.
Yep.
Or the 30th.
So you're suggesting replacing April 13 for a special meeting?
Yep.
A
special meeting to TBD.
To be determined?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So voting on the amendment. Actually, do I have a seconder for the change?
I made the motion.
Sure.
Okay.
What's the change?
Replacing April
date
13, 2026 regular council meeting with special meeting to be determined.
So April 13th would be in bracket in the amendment.
Can we not set a date now?
It will take time to determine when to have that meeting. checking to see who's available and so on and so forth and finding the right time. If we set it in stone now and it's wrong, we're kind of hooped.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, so you seconded it? Does anyone oppose to the change to the amendment? Seeing none opposed, motion passes, the amendment is made. Okay, on the motion as amended. Hit it.
I would remove the 6%. So friendly or not, I wouldn't have the 6% in there. I'd have 8 or 10.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know how to frame that, but like, it's never going to be perfectly 8 or perfectly 10. So I don't know if that needs to be in there, but if you were like the max we can hit is some weird number, like that's fine, just as long as we can see.
Okay. So we have an amendment to remove the 6%. Does someone second that? Actually, I think Councilor Pearson did. Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment is made. Okay, again, on the motion is amended. Actually, I think Councilor Holiday has already said that he has no further comments. Do you have any further comments?
No, I think that, you know, and I appreciate what conversations have taken place. I think it just gives us some more assurance, and I think that the public are asking questions around this 12%. And I think we're turning over every rock, and maybe it doesn't turn out, but again, it's that sober second thought, and I think it's the right thing to do at this time. I appreciate timelines and all the things that are there, but I think it is the appropriate thing to do. And I think we can achieve it. I think that council and staff can achieve this. And it sends a huge message to people who are struggling in our community. So thank you.
Councilor Betters?
I have a little bit of trouble with it. I think, I mean, I could get to 10% tomorrow by dropping the 2% asset management, which we've already looked at. So we're going to go back and hash the same old things over and over again. But if that's what council wants to do, then of course I'd be willing to hash anything over. That's what I get paid big dollars for. But yeah, it just, you know, it just frustrates me that we work so hard at doing some of these things and explore all these options, and now we're going to do it once again. But yeah, okay.
Councilor Bateman?
Yeah. So thank you, Councilor McMath, for taking the 6% out, because that was not going to be realistic at all. My numbers here, 7.59% is non-discretionary. That's municipal services excluding RCMP. And RCMP has a 2.64% total in non-discretionary. So that, to me, that adds up to a little over 10% right there. So, but I think it's worthwhile to go through this exercise. And in fact, you know, a 1% asset management might be an option. And the as much as that school police liaison officer, that's 266,000 right there. There's still 2 new RCMP hires, and yeah, I guess the 12% was defeated. So let's have a look at these other options.
And I will disagree. I think that we already have all the information, and I think it's time for us to make a decision. If we want to drop the 2% asset management and get this closer to 10%, then I say we just do it. Make it happen and get a budget that works. I don't think it would be the better decision, but I think it's a decision that works better than actually not providing support for young people in schools. I would rather see that we could actually get it lower if we just don't do that. But I think that we can make a decision right here, right now. We have all the information we need. We've been presented with it at length. We deliberated on it at length. Putting it off is just actually creating more work for ourselves and staff, and putting off the time we actually get input from the public. I think we can make a decision. I would not support this as it stands because it creates, honestly, a make-work project for staff where they have to come back to us and say, we already told you this. And here it is again. Well, chances are, because all this information, I've seen it all the way through, and so have all of you. I think we're going to get the same thing again, because that's what we're going to get. And we're still going to be presented with the same decision point again. And we will still have to decide, where do we want to make cuts if we want to reduce that figure from 12 to anything lower? We've already, at this point, it is a different question. But the question here is, do we send staff back to create a new report? The numbers that Councilor Bateman has presented us was 7.9 and 2.6. That's 10.5%. Now, Councilor McMath.
This is not a make work project. This is showing that within the community, just like at this table, there are very different perspectives, and it is a split. And so the temperature here is the temperature out there. So by doing this, it shows that this table cares. It's also an opportunity for further public education to understand how we have come to the percentage that we've come to, whatever that is. So I find it's like sometimes it's a bit of a dismissive take, and I don't share your perspective on that. And you're talking about respecting the community. You're getting a lot of feedback that they don't want that number that's at the table. So this is another opportunity for them to understand why it's where it's at. And to have this dialogue is healthy, and to have this conflict is fantastic. So it's not a make work project, it's due diligence.
So respectfully, no, actually, as chair, I get to do this. It's kind of fun. I'm mad with power. I'm sorry. Respectfully, if we don't want to call it a make work project, that's fine. But if not for all these wonderful people from the bike club that are waiting on a further decision later on this evening, honestly, this room would probably have 2 or 3 people. And that would be the same for every other meeting we've had dealing with the budget. Every single one. Even though they've been advertised and promoted, and people are upset about the figures, but they're not coming necessarily out. Another meeting is not going to bring in hordes of people unless the bike club finds out that they have something else they want to do, and then we'll get some response. Another meeting is not going to provide an educational opportunity, except for maybe 2 or 3 people on YouTube, and Ms. Pemberton, maybe Ms. Lewis, a couple of others. That's it. And they already know all this stuff because they've been here for all the meetings. They've already been here. It's not going to accomplish what you'd like it to. It's sure. I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. All right. So we're deferring for another meeting. Lovely. So next item on the agenda, new business. Seeing none. Next item, notices of motion. Councilor
Yeah,
Bateman.
I do have a notice, but I think I'm going to delay it until the meeting of April 13th.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Correspondence requiring action, legal opinion, query. I think we have a small report from staff on this one. And Councilor Bateman, you brought,
Yeah.
so we could put that out.
Now, let me get my notes together here. Yeah. So Ms. Pemberton, are you still here? Yes, you are. Thank you for writing us and receiving a reply from the district. I'd like to immediately turn it over to CAO Gray to share her views on your questions, which, yeah, so let's leave it at that.
Okay, so okay, no, it's okay. So, and it's fine. Okay. So at this point in time, we have letters and correspondence indicating that the district is at unknown legal risk for using language of unceded in the OCP and in territorial acknowledgements. And we've had correspondence indicating that we might be having such a risk. We have had a response, and I would like, I think, our corporate officer to comment. Or our CAO, whichever has the information.
Thank you, Chair. Although I can't really speak to the process of the development of the OCP explicitly, as I wasn't here during that time. But I can tell you that on a simple matter of law, we have undertaken to get legal advice, and we've been advised by Lidstones that it is. The direct quote, "It is highly unlikely the acknowledgement would play any determinative role in any legal proceedings. The focus in such a proceeding would be on historical evidence and legal analysis, not statements made by the town." Of course, the law on this is rapidly changing, so we cannot guarantee there is no possibility there might be legal implications to use the term, but such consequences have yet to make themselves evident.
Thank you. So I hope that brings you some comfort. Probably not. I understand that, but for the record, there it is. All right. So, yes. Sorry, what?
Did you pass new business?
Yes, I did. Was there new business?
Yes, I did have one item.
Then
I have one item of new business.
let's complete this first. Do we
Okay.
have to, there's nothing further here. We don't have to accept for information. So I think 14.1, we're done. Please go. Sorry.
I've had a couple of calls through the chair to CAO. I've had a couple of calls from people who live down in the Casinos area that the crosswalk, which is MOTT crosswalk at Harbor View Road and Sooke Road, is in very bad state of repair. The signage is up above the road, but the crossing itself is unpainted. Is there a way for us to communicate through our engineering department to MOTT to upgrade that crossing? It's kind of in a bad spot. When you come around that corner, there's been a couple of near misses there reported by people who are living in the area, and just got a call and asked me if we could somehow communicate to MOTT about at least getting the paint back on the road. So
Thank you. Thank
Through the
you.
chair to Councillor Pearsons, I believe that is one of the crosswalks we have been advocating to the province for, to put flashing
Yes.
cross lights at for numerous years now. My understanding, the last we heard from the province is they're not putting flashers on. They're not maintaining the crosswalk. So, but we can definitely put calls for service forward to them and let them know that they might be doing some painting. It's not our land to maintain. I guess it wouldn't be a district initiative at this time. So we can
I'm
definitely.
not
reach
asking
out.
for the district to do it. I'm just asking for us to communicate with our MLA who has an office about 400 feet from there.
Yes, we'll definitely reach out again. We've been advocating for
And
that
a
one
flashing
and
light.
numerous other ones for years. So we'll definitely reach out again and highlight that.
Okay, so Councilor Pearson is looking for minimum some paint on that.
No, I'm looking for a communication between.
But yes,
A minimum of paint.
minimum of paint, but some communication to make it happen.
Well, and again, reiterate the flashing light if we can. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, so that was new business that was missed. Sorry about that.
I was.
All right.
Solve it.
Okay, okay, guys, there's people waiting for this one. 14.2. Letter of support, Sooke Bike Club. Request for discussion by Councilor Bateman.
Okay,
Take it
so
away.
I'll move first of all for a receipt for information.
Okay, seconded by Councilor McMahon.
Okay, and I have a subsequent motion.
Well, hold on. I seeing no comment. I'll call for accepting for information.
Yes, okay.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next up, go ahead.
Okay, so I fumbled that last one. Sorry about that. I did have some comments to make, but here we are on this particular letter of support, which echoes exactly what we heard at the outset tonight. I have there are a number of, it's more than a letter of support, of course. There is a request for the district to be associated with the development and sponsorship of this trail network on Crown lands. Now, did you receive my motion? Thank you. I'm sorry. What is that? I could read it out, but there it is. Yeah. So my motion, and I'll motivate on it shortly, that council direct staff to report back on the Sooke Bike Club's request of March 23rd, 2026 for district sponsorship of and assistance with a community and institutional land use application to create a new trail network for mountain biking and hiking on Crown land. Okay. So this is a rich and exciting proposal. And as I said earlier, it aligns with earlier work done by Lorian Arnold and Steve Grundy and others involved with the 2013 symposium. The Outdoor Recreation Association of BC highlights mountain bike tourism as a fantastic growth industry. There's examples all over the place. Heather Rose of the Sooke Bike Club was a member of the CRD Mountain Bike Advisory Committee back in 2019-20. And her work on that committee helped lead to the agreement for Sooke Bike Club at C2C Regional Park. And they've demonstrated their talents and their ability and clearly the excitement and the passion for this. And it does, again, apply to our young people and intermediate riders, community vitality. So it's all great, your presentation, but I think we need to hear from staff on their capacity and their thinking. I know you've worked with Emma Taylor, I believe, to some extent, but it would be good to get a report back and then we can look at your presentation and staff comments at a hopefully near-term meeting. So this is also a long game campaign, I think, to some significant degree. It takes at least a year once an application is in, 6 months to a year, I think you've stated. But it would be good to see that staff report.
Thank you. Councilor Pearson.
Yes, enthusiastic, heck yeah, for the bike park. You know, the C2C Greenbelt, I was born and raised on Harborview Road, hiked there many times. And I want to say that the members of the bike club are extremely positive people in the woods. And when you come across them, they're stewards of the land. They really are good people who do good things, and they're polite. They're not running over dogs, and they're, you know, it's really an interaction that is so positive when you meet young people riding bikes in the bush. They do a great job. And so I thank you for what you've already accomplished. But my ask on this to staff is that the report also come back from our economic development officer to highlight the opportunities that come with a major bike park in our area. So that would be my ask.
Thank you. Councilor Beddoes.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this motion. In fact, if Councilor Bateman didn't make it, I was going to make it. We certainly need a staff report. I mean, we have to understand what the impact is legally for us as well. And of course, the impact on our staff for time. Great suggestion to go to our economic development person. They have a budget there that they could perhaps do some work on this. But anyways, we'll get the ball rolling and we'll see where it goes. Again, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I'll support this.
Councilor McMath or Haldane? Haldane?
Yeah, I'm in full support, 100%. The whole idea here is, again, create more opportunities for people for enjoying the outdoors and especially if they're taking their kids with them and stuff. It's all about getting kids out doing something other than sitting on the couch playing on the computers and stuff. But one more really cool fact is like the Sooke Flats campground now has bike camping for, I think there's 40 sites down there, and they've got a area now for cooking in the dry. They've got places where you can dry your clothes, bike repair center down there now, so you can use compressor and some tools and things like that. So they're trying to create more diversity even down the campsite then, and it's gonna keep these people here, you know, riding around Sooke and coming from wherever to do that. So great opportunity for you guys. Thank you.
Councillor McMath? No? Okay. Then it falls to me to make a couple final comments. I think that the motion is prudent because we need to find out exactly what kind of staff resources and time we're looking at. This is certainly more than just a letter of support because there were, 3 different categories of various types of work. We're gonna have to make sure we get in touch with Nanaimo, see how it's all gone there and so on and so forth. As you can see, there's an awful lot of support from all of council and from just about everybody. Personally, I'm highly excited at the idea that we may be able to get more business, more economic development, and potentially be able to get our residential taxes down by doing so. This is a good place to invest. This is how we do it. So fantastic, and thank you for taking this on, potentially. It also provides amenity spaces in Sooke that we don't have to pay for through taxes. So people have more things to do, more fun things to do, more businesses show up to provide more fun things to do for the cyclists, and everybody gets benefits, and there's more businesses. Excellent. Love it. Thank you. Call the question. Anyone opposed? Better not see none. Good. Well done. Thank you. Okay. Council verbal reports. Congratulations, sort of. By the way, it was never getting better than this, okay? Don't get too excited. It was never getting better than this. Feeling lonely now. All right. So, council verbal reports. Council Pearson.
Yes, only 2 items to report after my nice long vacation. I attended last Saturday, I attended the AGM for Sooke Region Historical Society at the museum. They had their annual elections. There was election, so I was sequestered to be one of the ballot officers, myself and Al Wickham, as well as a voter, and I got to count the ballots. Sort of some interesting news at the museum. Alita Pierce did, she conducted the meeting, the AGM. She talked about retirement. So she's
a sea change.
So at 94 years old, still going, still conducting meetings. It was wonderful to see her there in the presentation. This week I went to, last Wednesday, I attended the regional water supply meeting. Nothing really too much to report on. Regional or the inspectors of municipalities are reviewing the DCC bylaw that was approved by the board and adopted. So they're expected that report from the inspector of municipalities should be back by sometime in May or June. It's controversial because it adds significant costs to individual houses, but again, it was supported by the board. In terms of water watch, we're trending right on. We are spilling at 100% as of March 22nd.
Okay, if I can ask.
Yeah.
Personally, I think we've had more water than we've had in a long time.
Yeah, there were some significant numbers. We were about 110% in certain categories. We were 105 or 108%, I believe.
That sounds about right.
So over the 25-year average or so.
Okay.
It's but we really are right on trend in the Sooke Lake Reservoir. We're full, we're spilling, and
good to know.
And we expect the trend to start going downhill the first week of May, last week of April, first week of May. So
thank you.
That's it for me.
Next. Councilor Bateman.
Okay, let's see, I attended an online meeting, the Foundry Leadership Advisory Circle. That's Foundry BC. They meet every couple of months. And they're working towards, they're very much focused on their head office or the head clinic or central spot in Colwood Langford. And then they will be looking at the Sooke, boy, I'm running out of steam tonight. I'm just fumbling all over the place here. So I did organized a meetup between Island Health and representatives from Ayr Manor on Friday to discuss the long game possibilities for reviving the expansion plans at Ayr Manor. And that it was clear that there's no capital funding in this new era of austerity at the province, but they are, if Sooke can get it built, they're prepared to fund beds. And so that was exciting. And you know, the Sooke Builders Association, there's, you know, it's like hero work in this community. Has been done in the past, and maybe it can be done in the future, or it's finding some creative public-private partnership. And I know they've talked to you, Councillor Haldane, and it's interesting. So it's the next step. You keep the water boiling. I went to Carolyn took me out to a talk about native species at the museum on Thursday, and then she led me over for some broom bashing on Whiff and Spit on Saturday with several dozen folks led by Sid and Rosemary Jorna. And this is their 19th year of busting broom on Whiff and Spit. And it's making a difference. Those broom seeds get into the soil, and they're there for up to 30 to 40 years. And they can suddenly spring back to life. So people need to be vigilant. Okay.
Councilor Haldane? Councilor McMahon? Okay, so I attended the Rising Economy from SIPS, or South Island, South Island Prosperity. I'm tired too. Yeah, okay. It was a great event. I'll tell you about the best part right at the end. Focused very much on housing and affordability issues as one of the linchpins to local economy. Idea being, of course, you cannot actually have a local economy unless you can actually have affordable housing for your workers. So a lot of places are experiencing some real pinch points in terms of actually keeping workers. This is an ongoing concern. They're looking at productivity as a major issue. We're not very productive compared to the rest of BC, and BC is not very productive compared to the rest of Canada, and Canada is not very productive compared to a lot of places. So looking at trying to actually increase our productivity using all sorts of different tools and methods. Looking at commercial district revitalization, getting the region to collaborate and understand that it's a regional economy and it's actually difficult to actually focus activity in just one area. And the importance of resilience against external shocks. And of course, our neighbors to the south were mentioned many times with regards to that. The thing that I found the most interesting was actually entrepreneurs that presented. There was a series of them. Everything from someone who actually made a business of putting together whale skeletons for installation in museums and so on and so forth. Just crazy stuff, like 3D printing, missing pieces of bone and all the rest. But my high point was probably a puzzle company where a couple of architects started making coasters, but eventually started using artwork from local artists and making incredible puzzles of wood. And this weekend, I was invited to do one in Vancouver with some family and friends. They were amazing. So I know I shouldn't be doing this, but Puzzle Labs, Victoria, pretty cool stuff. Not cheap, but hey. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Oh, that was fast. I'm sorry, Megan. I'm sorry. Okay, moved and seconded. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, you talked to